Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers! Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our
Movie
Memoirs!
Memoirs!
I'm going to do the whole 3-hour podcast in my Bob Dylan voice, Dragon. Do you like my Bob Dylan voice?
No.
All right, obviously I'm not actually going to do that. Okay, let's just jump right into it. We got some news. I guess let's just say up front, folks. I had some medical issues over the weekend, which is why we did not record this in a more timely manner. We usually like to put this up in the first couple days of the month. I apologize for the delay, Colby. No, I will not. I will not. I'm sorry. Colby, I'll make you a deal. Maybe when we do the whole like Golden Tiki, like we're going through the wild card categories right now. Maybe when we reveal the wild card picks, I will do it then. I'll do the whole reveal podcast in the Bob Dylan voice. All right. Anyways, Dragon. Let's get on to the news. Of course, as always, we have a couple celebrity deaths. You want to start things off?
Sure. So here's all the people that died.
Yeah.
All right. So Olivia Hussey passed away.
Yep.
All right. So
now,
Olivia
of course,
Hussey.
She's best known as Juliet in the 60s version of Romeo and Juliet, amongst other things. Yeah. But I think, honestly, Dragon, we were kind of saying this. Like, I really feel like anyone who grew up, like anyone who got a high school education probably at some point saw that Romeo and Juliet. It's kind of like a rite of passage in the same way that reading The Great Gatsby or watching Gandhi is in high school.
Yeah, this was like the film adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. Like, for the longest time, at least. This was like the original, like, definitive version. And then beyond that, we would, we kind of go from there, and sometimes you throw Leo in there with guns. Sometimes.
I mean, Romeo plus Juliet is probably the best Romeo and Juliet version, but this is definitely the definitive one, at least as far as being text accurate.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Anyway, so Olivia Hussey, though, I mean, so when it comes to her, I think of a few roles. I mean, there's Juliet's like the big one that she'll be in the film history books for.
I'm sure there's a Bob Dylan quote involving Juliet. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, a woman has died here, Tiki. I'm just trying to celebrate the woman's life. So here's something. She was the original Norma Bates.
Oh, yes.
By that, I mean like the original living Norma Bates from Psycho 4, which, by the way, of all the, in my opinion, still of all the sequels to the Psycho movies, no one ever talks about Psycho 4. I like Psycho 4 because you have Henry Thomas playing. Because again, that was the prototype for Bates Motel, the TV show.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Henry Thomas is a pretty like underrated actor as far as like outside of his obvious child acting stuff.
And basically, here's the thing: when you go into the Bates Motel show, everyone was kind of expecting, Norma Bates to be kind of akin to what she did in that movie in terms of like that was big. Okay, how do you get the old crone Norma Bates? The very kind of very Puritan, very very prudish, and just to the point of old croniness. Like how do you get her to that point? And it was a very basically what Olivia Hussey did is she played her very bipolar. Like 1 second she'd be very loving, and the other second she would just be she'd go full old crone from just basically punishing Norman for all these conflicting signals that she's sending him. It's basically Norma Bates in the Bates Motel TV show. She's very, very understanding and protective of Norman. This is like, imagine that, but then she turned up being, it's like, what if she had the blackout modes, essentially? It's kind of
yes, right. That's a good way to put it.
All right, now the other thing I want to highlight with Olivia Hussey, one of the main reasons I wanted to bring her up is that she was the second voice of the two of Talia al Ghul. So again, to me, in my heart of hearts, because I love Demon's Quest so much, I mean, she's not going to eclipse Helen Slater, Supergirl, who played Talia in Batman the Animated Series. But still, though, Olivia Hussey did get one of the great Talia episodes. She got Out of the Past from Batman Beyond. The last time we heard Talia, that was Olivia Hussey.
That's definitely one of my favorite Talia episodes.
Mm-hmm. So
For
yeah,
sure,
so
for sure.
clearly, so point being, she will. I heard, she had passed. Apparently, she had battled with breast cancer, and it seems like it kind of got her in the end. It sounds like so. It's a shame, but she again very important to again. She's kind of breached a lot of things that we liked ultimately between Bates Motel in a sense and the animated series and just kind of film in general. So she'll be missed.
All right, really quick, just going to shout out a couple comments here. Little Blue says the very recent deaths this month were unexpected and saddened for sure. Yeah, Little Blue, you might want to shout out a couple of them because we only have a few. So if we don't get to any of yours, by all means, shout them out. We might not have a lot to say, but Richard's Victims is here. He's saying, "I just came, and the first thing I hear is a woman just died." Tiki. Richard's Victims, no, we are not going to do. I've heard it's surprisingly good. I don't know. Dragon, have you seen any of Dexter Original Sin at all? I've heard like surprisingly decent things about it.
I mean, look, I saw the trailer. We talked a little about the trailer. It was from what the only thing I've heard about is that it's pretty much just more Dexter, but it's like more Dexter with different people, which is like, why am I watching?
So yeah, we're probably not going to cover it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he says he loves Bates Motel. Richard's Victims, I don't quite remember. Were you around during the Talking Mrs. Bates days?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So Richard's Victims, Dragon and I, back in the day, back when Bates Motel was airing, we didn't do season 1. We just did a spoiler cast of season 1. But all the other seasons, every episode we have recap, not to mention a variety of top 10 lists and stuff. Dragon and I, that Bates Motel was one of the big things that Dragon and I kind of cut our teeth with as far as our podcasting partnership. So go back and look at some of that. All right.
You can see us fall in love with Vera Farmiga. It's a magical experience.
Okay, Eli, I will point those out after we get through with our listed people. Okay, let's see. So we have also Paul Hogan, man. This was the big one for me. Paul Hogan was like a big freaking Dragon. I have so much nostalgia. This is going to sound so stupid because it's a movie that nobody remembers. But like I have so much nostalgia specifically for Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. It's the Crocodile Dundee movie that came out when I was a kid in theaters. I had already seen the other two on TV, and it's probably the worst of the Crocodile Dundee movies, but I really liked it, and I still have nostalgia about it.
I remember there's a really great scene in that. I think it's where he does he go to a film set or a theme park where he like attacks he attacks like the wildlife that's within it.
Right. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it might be a theme park.
I think it's a theme park, dude. I think the idea is like there's like it's like he's going on the Jurassic Park ride and something pops out and he attacks it.
So yeah, Paul Hogan, I mean, very much an actor that's pretty much just known as Crocodile Dundee. I remember when my one of my local theme parks, not local, but like it's like a couple hours away from me, but California Great America, then Paramount's Great America opened their water park. It was literally called Crocodile Dundee's Boomerang Bay, and they had Paul Hogan out there during the media day. So I don't know. This guy just kind of seems like he was always just sort of around, and he was just like a nice sort of presence. So it's definitely sad that he's passed.
And he had the iconic line, didn't he? Wasn't he the "That's not a knife"? Wasn't that?
Oh yes, he was very much. That's not a knife. This is a knife.
He became the stereotype for the Australian. He was the perennial Australian.
Was he the guy that did the Foster's Australian for beer? Was that him?
I don't know if that was him.
I need to look that up.
But still, I'm just saying, like he
would do that.
That's what I'm saying. Like he was like the, like the Australian.
He was like basically the prototypical, like put a shrimp on the barbie.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. He was like in pop culture, he was the original Australian. Then we got Hugh Jackman.
And Keeper Colby says he was Steve Irwin before Steve Irwin.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm literally looking up Paul Hogan Foster's. I'm genuinely curious.
Scintillating podcasting for the folks, I'm sure.
Yes. There's whole ass compilations of Paul Hogan Foster's commercials. That was definitely him.
Okay, mystery solved.
All right. So yeah, no, he hasn't really been active in a while, but he will be missed, of course.
Yep.
Okay, and then last on our list, we've got Jim Abrahams. Dragon, tell us about him.
I'm gonna say it like that. I'm gonna say it like that gag from Freakazoid. You know, Jim Abrams.
Oh God.
Like Norm Abrams, kids. Anyway, so look. Long story short, Jim Abrams. He was the third in the
Abrahams. I'm a dumbass. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I mean, look, I'm not going to say you're wrong on that. I'm just saying I think it's pronounced Abrams, but
No, but it's the same thing as like J.J. Abrams. I think it's the same kind of pronunciation idea. Yeah.
Well, the point being, he was the third in the directing writing trio that was the Zucker brothers. You know, who gave us such kind of story comedy classics like Airplane and Naked Gun. Specifically, Airplane was the game changer, and he was there for that. And I meant to look this up because I swear to you, I finished reading, and here's why Jim Abrams kind of hit me when I heard this, because I used to finish reading a book on the making of Airplane.
Oh, nice.
Like a while, last year, like a few.
What's the book called? What reference did they go with?
Okay, I think they went with like a really long. Hold on a second. I'm gonna reach over and get it, but it was they went with like the really long title, so it was like Airplane. The hold on. Sorry, it's gonna take a second.
For some reason, I just assumed "Don't Call Me Shirley" was part of the.
No, you're right. No, okay. Here's what. Okay, no, sorry, it wasn't Airplane. It was Surely You Can't Be Serious. That's what they went with.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Shirley
was involved.
Like Surely You Can't Be Serious. So that's essentially what it was. And yeah, so he wrote the book with the Zucker brothers. It was all by them. And anyway, yeah, and I want to say this was him specifically, but there's this really great story when they were making airplanes to show you kind of the time and the time and era it was. This was when a lot of time you had projects that had multiple directors, but the other directors would have to go uncredited because of the Directors Guild can only like a lot of credit to a movie, and this movie had 3 directors on it. It was these 3 guys. So Abrams essentially just to really show these show the guild, like, okay guys, you gotta change this stature, make an exception here. Abrams, I'm pretty sure it was him. He went to legally change his name to be a combination of like Jim Abrams, David Zucker, basically all 3 names combined into his last name to be a really long last name. It's like kind of like a gag just to make fun of like the fact that we couldn't get 3 individual credits, so he was going to legally change his name to be all 3 of their names combined somehow.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying, but he was ridiculous in all the best ways. Again, this guy is again comedy legend with these guys, and again after Airplane and Naked Gun, they all essentially went their separate ways, which is why it's kind of like a weird family tree of sorts where after the Naked Gun films, then you get all the beginnings of what leads to Scary Movie and everything. So and then you get eventually like the bloodline descends to, then you get Disaster Movie, and then you get this. But again, I want to be clear, that's not.
And then it just goes even further down the rabbit hole into like Meet the Spartans, Vampires Suck,
that's
the Starving Games.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It all starts with the genuine comedy gold, and then of the parody, the perfect parody film. And then when the band splits up, again, not like aggressively, but just they go their separate ways.
When the band splits up, you get Ringo Starr solo albums,
and then it goes from there. When then they lead the project, then their underlings take over, and then it kind of goes from there.
Then you basically get a Wings album without Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
Point being, Abrams, just utter comedy legend. He will, that man took being silly seriously, and we love him for it.
Well said. All right, Richard's victims. He's having a little bit of an existential meltdown in the chat here.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
He's saying, man, it would be so cool if Australians were real and not just a myth like Santa Claus and a good MCU film after No Way Home. Well, watch your tongue, sir, because Guardians Volume 3 was my number 1 of last year. So
technically, Deadpool Wolverine does fit inside the MCU. So
right. Although I think Deadpool and Wolverine is more of a Fox X-Men
I know,
movie.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I said
For that.
technically. I mean, we have the
And then I
TVA
think Guardians 3, you can make the case that that's less of an MCU movie, more just James Gunn's last hurrah with the
Okay,
MCU.
let's be honest. Okay, those Guardians, not counting Guardians in that because of the reasons you just said. Deadpool Wolverine is absolutely an exception. Okay, that was the freebie. Like, okay, we're going to give one that no one could possibly screw up. And then after that, right now, Captain America, the next Captain America movie. That's
I'm like very cautiously optimistic about Thunderbolts Asterix.
mhm.
I have no optimism for New World Order or Brave New World or whatever the fuck it's called.
See, now you have me questioning in that because I was all settled. Okay, it is New World Order, and now you got me thinking, oh wait, is it Brave New World now? Which title did we go with? The
I
point
think
being,
it's Brave New World.
Okay, Brave New World. The point being that one's going to be the actual test. Like, okay, have we found our way back?
Yeah, I have next to no confidence in that movie. Honestly, I hate to say it.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
You know what Thunderbolts Asterix has that Brave New World doesn't and should have?
Jake Schreier is the director.
No, Sebastian Stan.
That's true. By the way, have you seen I know you're going to talk a little bit more about Sebastian Stan later in the podcast, but just as an offshoot, have you seen the Golden Globes post interview thing with him and Mackie?
I have not.
It's adorable. He's getting
nice.
Sebastian Stan's in the middle of his post award interview, and then Anthony Mackie comes and hijacks, and the interview lady is so charmed by Mackie. It's adorable.
But seriously, just for 1 second, let's just acknowledge. Colby says Golden Globes winner Sebastian Stan. Dragon, I will talk about A Different Man a little later on in this podcast. Yeah. Suffice to say, that was the most epic win of the night by a long shot. Ain't nobody heard of that movie, and for him to win for that movie, a well-deserved win, was just chef's kiss. It was awesome. So, anyways, we got a couple more from Eli here, a couple more passings. We have Britt Alcroft, who was, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know. Eli, correct me if I'm wrong here. She's basically the creator of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh,
yeah. Thomas the Tank Engine, not necessarily a franchise I ever got involved in, but I know that franchise means a lot to a lot of people.
I was one of them. I was steeped in early Thomas the Tank Engine early.
I definitely had some Thomas the Tank Engine toys as a kid. I just never got into the actual media side of things.
Yeah.
And they did die the same day. Dragon and also Jeff Baina, I want to say, Aubrey Plaza's husband. This guy was a writer-director. He did mostly, from what I could tell, romantic drama type movies, so not really my type of movies. I looked up his filmography. It's not anything I'm too familiar with. But it's very sad. It was a suicide death. And Colby, if you're in the comments, Colby, it really strikes me. Okay. So just to clarify, she's not the writer's.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know if it's the original Thomas the Tank. She's been involved in Thomas the Tank Engine stuff,
so
including
the show. Okay, I assume that the books came before the show.
She didn't create the books. I'm saying she's talking about the show, and it sounds like she directed Thomas and the Magic Railroad. She was probably there during the Alec Baldwin era of Thomas, which basically he was in the movie. And then he was the narrator for a bit, so it was kind of around. So I don't know if she was there from the beginning. That's the whole thing. Thomas shows
she had a very significant hand in the
franchise. Well, yeah, I mean, it's still a loss. I want to be clear. This is still a pretty solid era of Thomas that she was involved with. I mean, I had mad nostalgia for Magic Railroad.
Yeah. So Colby, obviously you're the only other person on the planet who's seen My Old Ass, apparently. And let me tell you, man, My Old Ass has a scene. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's technically a spoiler, but Aubrey Plaza has a moment of grief in My Old Ass. That's one of the best pieces of acting I've seen all year. I nominated her for a Golden Tiki specifically for that scene for Best Supporting Actress. And my God, that scene is going to hit even fucking harder now knowing that her real life husband is gone. Holy shit. Colby, do you not feel that? Goddamn, that movie just all of a sudden just became even more emotionally resonant. Yeah, Yeah, Colby says that one was ironic in a really tragic way. Yeah, indeed. Ah, that's rough. All right. Okay, so moving on. You know what, Dragon? This is the first time in a while where we don't really. Obviously, the celebrity deaths are horrible, but we don't have any horrible industry news. We have some what the fuck industry news we're about to go over, but it's kind of a fun sort of what the fuck. Would you like to tell them about it?
Yeah, sure. So we have casting.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that we are getting, we had two bits of casting announced. We know one of the roles. The other one is just more like we have a name. So Sigourney Weaver has been added to the Mando and Grogu cast. I like me some Sigourney Weaver, and putting her in sci-fi.
I think Sigourney Weaver's fine. She's never really like. I feel like maybe if I grew up in the '80s, I'd appreciate her a little bit more than I do.
What I'm saying, I still like her in a lot of '90s stuff, though. That's what
Yeah, I don't know. She's one of those actresses who she does constant like good work. She's just never really wowed me.
Yeah.
I digress, though.
Anyway, so point being Sigourney Weaver, but more so, I think the one that's a little more noteworthy in this case because we have an actual role attached to him. So Jeremy Allen White, of all people, has been announced to be joining the film, but not in a role you might expect. So Jeremy Allen White is playing, I assume, a grown-up version of Rota the Hutt. Now, Rota the Hutt Kids is Jabba the Hutt's son, who we saw in the Clone Wars pilot movie.
Yup. So what the fuck? I mean, I'm in for it. I'm totally here for it, but it's still like more than a little baffling.
You know what I think they're going? You know what I think they might be aiming for with this?
Godfather of the Galaxy.
I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, I'm down for that. But here's the thing.
That's always the Star Wars movie I've wanted to see is essentially like Jabba the Hutt and Rota the Hutt. Like, I think I probably pitched that very concept on a debate.
No, I'm with you. I think we both have, like, at some point we've pitched, like, Godfather in space with the Hutt's family. And this essentially could be it. Now, here's the question. Now, here's what I like about it. Essentially, we've taken, we've taken a previous Baby Yoda figure and kind of made him into a bad
that's
guy.
true. I didn't even really think about that.
Now, I think we're going one of two directions with, and both seem interesting to me. Okay, and again, through the vein of Godfather in space, still works either way. So basically, we've taken our Baby.
I mean, being as though Jabba the Hutt is dead, this would technically be Godfather Part 2.
Godfather Part 2. But that's my point, though. So you have. We've made him a bad guy potentially. So again, kind of later stage, Michael Corleone, via Jeremy Allen White is Rota Hutt grown up.
I mean, Jeremy Allen White, I could totally see him doing the Michael Corleone like Italian mobster thing.
But here's the thing with Godfather Part 2, I think you could. I kind of keep it amorphous because you could go either way here. You could go Godfather Part 2 in that he has become like, he's following his father's footsteps. He's the bad guy, or at least one of the main antagonists of the film. Flip side, like to parallel Grogu, he had a very set life path and he bumped up against that. He went a different way with it. There is a chance. I mean, I'm not saying it's a certainty, but there's a chance to parallel Grogu. What if Rota went against the family business?
I could see that. Maybe he's like an informant for the Republic or something.
Like that's what I'm saying. Something.
Yeah.
What, at the very least, what if he's what if he's not like all bad like his father? What if he saw the light, so to speak? Remember, he was saved and kind of delivered by the good guys, by Jedis, and again in parallel to Grogu, who was also
gave him the very, very adorable and endearing nickname of Stinky, if I remember correctly.
That's true.
That was a great first impression of Ahsoka Tano.
Okay, but seriously though, it's kind of
you know what? I don't even mind that as much as I mind her calling R2 R2E in that.
Yeah,
movie.
well, that didn't.
That pissed me off.
It didn't stick. It was just
good
movie.
Good.
Okay, but seriously though, don't you think it's kind of interesting that again Rhoda and Baby and Grogu have some things in common there?
No,
with their
definitely. I didn't
story,
even think about the whole like baby element until you said something.
They're kind of saved by essentially, again, he's saved by Jedis. Grogu in the first place is saved by a Jedi. I don't know.
I'm always down for like a redemption of a piece of media that was otherwise maligned. Like how we're kind of legitimizing certain iconography of the holiday special within Skeleton Crew right now.
By the way, another thing, It's fun. This is going to sound horrible, but Jeremy Allen White just kind of with his visage. I mean, obviously he's going to be either he's mocapped or something. Well, not mocapped. Obviously, we're going to and put him into like
no, Dragon. It's going to be like the original A New Hope version of it. It's just going to be him, and it's just going to be his like freaking young Gene Wilder-esque face.
But with that in mind, though, seriously, if you kind of look at Jeremy Allen White, you kind of imagine him like with kind of like his iconic kind of lidded expression. If we just kind of apply that to
I could totally see them applying the expression to a Hut face.
That's what I mean, right? Don't you kind of see when you hear he's cast as Road of the Hut, you kind of see like a younger, slightly thinner Hut, but
right.
Anyway.
Oh dear. All right.
Okay. Point being, it's Jeremy Allen White we like, and putting him in that movie seems like a good idea. Making him Road to the Hut, that's kind of cool. So yeah, we're down for it.
All right. Next up, Mike Flanagan, one of my boys, Dragon. One of the great horror directors out there, along with people like Robert Eggers and oh goddamn, why am I forgetting the Hereditary guy? This is terrible. Did Beau is Afraid do that much damage to my perception of that guy? Jesus Christ, Colby, help me out here. Oh my God, I'm totally blanking on him. Anyways, the Hereditary guy. Jesus, I'm embarrassed.
The Hereditary guy has a family. Tiki, and you've just
Ari Aster. There we go. Thank you, Colby. Thank you. Wow, that was awful.
Yeah, but now his kids think less of him. Tiki, you did that.
No, I think he just thinks less of me, which is fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, Mike Flanagan, who's done some of the best horror-related TV I think I've ever seen, is doing a Clayface movie. Now, Dragon, I want to emphasize here, I'm excited about this, and I think it's interesting how we've already gotten our first glimpse of Clayface in the DCU with Creature Commandos this past week. Yeah, Beau is Afraid did make me think less of him, indeed. Unfortunately, that movie was a dumpster fire. A dumpster fire with, like, a really good first hour or so, and a really good Nathan Lane performance. But other than that, it was a dumpster fire. But, Dragon, I think this Clayface series, I think it would be much better served as a series for two reasons. Number one, it would be continuing the whole motif of what Penguin set up with giving Batman villains like extended backstories, which worked really well. By the way, Golden Globe winning actor Colin Farrell for the Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, as I already kind of established, Mike Flanagan is like one of the GOATs, one of the greatest of all time when it comes specifically to horror TV. I mean, get that I'm sorry, I'm also blanking on his name, but get that American Horror Story guy out of here.
Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not doing good with names tonight. But You know what I mean? I really do wish this was a show. I really, really wish it was a show.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's the Mike Flanagan. How did you feel about Dr. Sleep? Did you like that at all? Or
I need to rewatch it. I really, really like the first half. Once they get to the Overlook Hotel, it kind of just becomes member berries. Like, remember the twins? Remember the hallway of blood? And at that point, it kind of lost me. I think Rebecca Ferguson in that movie as the main villain was like the big takeaway. And Ewan McGregor as an adult Danny Torrance was also probably one of Ewan McGregor's best all-time performances, I think. So that movie did have a lot going for it. I just think it kind of dropped the ball for nostalgia bait in the last act. Yeah, Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass are both masterpieces. Hard to agree on that.
Well, I mean, I've kind of spoke about this a little bit when we talked Commandos, but just to kind of say it here for posterity's sake, I mean, I'm really interested in this. Apparently, James Gunn, he wasn't preparing in his big movie plans. This is something that kind of sprung up recently on him, where Mike Flanagan basically sold him on a Clayface movie. He says, you know what, I didn't intend on making a Clayface movie, but let's do it. Let's make it happen. Because he wrote a really good script that really knocked his socks off. So I think more like the this could end up being a lot more like the Penguin than than the Joker in terms of like how we do like a villain kind of standalone film. Mind you, I
Because
know
the
the thing was
Joker basically wasn't a villain origin story if you really break down what that franchise was doing.
well, still, it just love. So apparently, Mike Flanagan has got a love for Batman the animated series. The word on the street is he's going with Matt Hagen. Now that is a question if this guy's going to end up being like the actor Clayface or not, because in the animated series we kind of combined our Clayfaces. We had Basil Carlo is the actor. Matt Hagen is essentially, I think, he's more like kind of finds like kind of a mystical clay in a cave somewhere, and that's how he turns into Clayface. But let's not. The point being, I think he's going to mix and match like the animated series did. But that's just that because given that he loves the Feet of Clay episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. If he's basically doing kind of a feature take on Feet of Clay, but on his own terms, and basically like through more like the Matt Hagen character's perspective, I think that could be interesting. And I think the thing that fills me confidence, again, like more like the Penguin and just kind of what we saw recently on Creature Commandos is, will we have a Batman cameo? And again, I think that's the thing with the DCU. I could buy that we could, even if we don't have a Batman yet, just the visage of a Batman or the impression of a Batman is all you really need, and you can still it just shows you have a fleshed out world, and it's just enough. I have confidence that in doing it that way, this cracks the code on like Batman has such a diverse and well thought out rose gallery. All these characters could carry their own films so long as you don't just ignore like the question of where is Batman during all this. As long as we just have again, he doesn't need to overshadow.
You don't ignore it, but I don't think you fixate on it either. I think stuff like Penguin and Creature Commandos so far is getting it right, where it's like we know just enough to see that he's looming in the background, but it's not like an over. It's not like that whole, like, The Simpsons, they have that Poochie episode where it's like, when Poochie's not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Poochie? Like, it's not like that,
Yeah, not that. It just feels, my point is that the credo should be a little Batman goes a long way.
Sure.
In doing it, and basically so far, like the Penguin, massive success, Batman's nowhere in it, but even so, little Batman goes a long way, and that's all you need. Mm-hmm. And I have a good feeling. I think Flanagan, being the fan that uses the material and is given the leeway that James Gunn's given a lot of these projects, feels like, I could buy him doing the same thing where, the Joker movie have to have all these workarounds for, okay, there's no Batman. We've shown there's no Batman. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what is looking at the Sony stuff as well. That's the big that's the kryptonite that they have. We have no access to Spider-Man. It's ridiculous. Clayface will not have that problem, I don't think.
Sure.
Anyway.
All right, next up, we've got Nolan's next movie officially confirmed as an adaptation of The Odyssey. Now, Dragon, are you aware of the weird, fucking obscure-ass Ralph Fiennes movie that just came out called The Returned, which is basically about Odysseus returning to his home and all the fallout of that?
I didn't hear anything about that.
No. Yeah, nobody heard anything about it. It totally flopped. And from everything I've seen of it, it looked, Colby says The Return was ass. So that's the only thing that, like, I'm sure Nolan will do it better, but that's the only thing that I worry about. And I also worry that The Odyssey is very much like, the most fantastical thing that Nolan has done. So it's definitely like, it's out of his comfort zone, which is exciting, but also a little bit worrisome. Like, because obviously Nolan's dabbled in like sci-fi before, but
Tiki, I think
intents and purposes is like pure fantasy.
I think it begs the question though, Tiki. Do you think Nolan's actually going to full on like adapt the Odyssey, or do you think with him just saying Nolan's taking on the Odyssey, is that going to be more of like a modern, like it's like the Odyssey, but it's basically Nolanized or modern or something? Like, what do you think?
I have no idea. I mean, if it's modernized, I don't know how they would approach that either, honestly.
Well, I think the problem is the Odyssey essentially is Batman if it's modernized, which just feels like I think Nolan's already done that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the the great thing with Odysseus. He's like the human man going on the journey and the trials and defeating the gods. And
I could see Leo as Odysseus, and it'd be nice to see Leo and Nolan team up again.
I mean, sure. I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, honestly, I wonder who else he might get, because I know he's been itching to work with Pattinson. I forget Pattinson's like was free or not, but I think he wanted him for this movie, but I'm not sure. Anyway, but yeah, so I'm sure it's going to be good. No one's taking on the odds. I'm just saying, given the American Prometheus of it all, with
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou actually is a good example of like how they could do it without the fantasy elements.
so that's what I'm getting at. Between that or like the whole American Prometheus thing with with Oppenheimer, that's why I question, like, could Nolan just be taking the story of the Odyssey and doing kind of like applying it to something,
It could be. I mean, from what I heard, it sounds more like just a straightforward adaptation of the myth. But
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know for sure.
I mean, Nolan's going to have to apply a lot of CG there or something. I mean, I would hope not a lot of CG, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, like a Cyclops, he's got to do something there. I mean,
And
I would
like
love
I said,
it.
just the very idea of having a Cyclops in your movie to begin with is kind of like more fantastical than anything he's ever covered before.
I would love it. I don't know, because it's such uncharted territory for him, but Nolan would not, it would blow us all away if Nolan got Phil Tippett to do Ray Harryhausen-esque stop motion
That
in
would be
his
really
movie
cool.
for like if we brought the actual Phil Tippett in there to do
That'd be awesome.
yes, like, oh my god, Nolan's bringing it back with stop motion and puppets and giant, like, like, oh my god, wouldn't that be amazing?
Colby says he's gonna hire a real sea monster.
See, no, Nolan's gonna be going. He's gonna like employ one of those James Cameron subs, and he's gonna go all the way down there. He's gonna find like an anglerfish and mutate it somehow. It'll be,
All right. Eli's saying Tom Holland and Zendaya, who they did just get engaged very recently. Congratulations, you cute kids. He's saying they're confirmed to be in it. I don't know. I don't know where you heard that. But I don't. It's not that I don't believe you. I just haven't heard that myself.
Yeah, you can say it. You don't believe him. It's okay.
It'd be the first time that Nolan's worked with either of them, which is interesting. So I mean, Zendaya in particular would be a pretty good get for Nolan. I could see Zendaya definitely shining in a Nolan movie.
Do you think Nolan likes Dune, or is he bored by Dune?
I think he definitely likes Dune. Him and Villeneuve are buds.
Really? I didn't know they were buddies. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. That's it. If Zendaya were in it, that would be the proof in the pudding there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have let's get to the trailer park, Dragon.
Trailer time.
All right. So obviously Superman. We didn't really talk about this when it first came out. We were saving it for Memoirs. I'm sure we probably brought it up briefly, but yeah, I don't know what else to say except it looks pretty fantastic. The one thing I worry about, and I should not be worried about this at all, because it's James Gunn, and James Gunn literally excels at ensemble casts, but I think we're maybe introducing a little bit too much into the DCU a little too quickly. But man, I have all the faith in the world when it comes to James Gunn and ensemble stuff.
Yeah, I think the trailer instills a lot of confidence, but you gotta remember, all eyes are on this project. Literally, I mean, it's been kind of rumored that, again, like, this could potentially sink all of the whole DCU thing that he's playing. Because if Superman doesn't take off, they could have a lot of problems on their hands. This is like they bet all their
literally
chips.
Like half the internet has been like salivating for this thing to fail ever since it was announced. So
well, that's the thing. And it's really complicated. I forget how much I really, to my knowledge, and I mean, I could be wrong about this, I'm still of the mindset that James Gunn was saddled with this because of upper level thinking. But again, the whole Cavill thing, I don't think was Gunn's fault. But I think Gunn was basically him bring. I have a very specific vision in mind for Superman, and we got to do a clean break. And that, of course, I think Cavill got wrong information there. It was like, hey, we want you back. It's, oh yeah, and right. Black Adam's your backdoor pilot, man. And then, of course, it's like, so, Mr. Gunn, where am I starting here? And then he's it's like, Henry, someone really should have called you about this. Have a seat.
David Cords was like, hi, Henry. He's like extra polite about it, but the fact that he's so polite about it just makes it even more annoying.
That's the thing. So a lot of people.
Hi, Henry. I played the porn theater owner in Pearl. I'm a perfect choice for the Man of Steel. Which is what I associate him with. That and playing the douchebag rival in Twisters. Like Cornswet really hasn't had that many like Superman-esque role so far.
You gotta remember, look, with Cavill, you feel so bad for the because I think he also left The Witcher for Superman.
He did, and although to be fair, The Witcher, I haven't watched it. From what I've heard, it's kind of a dumpster fire of a show.
Yeah, but I think he really enjoyed doing it, though. You know, it's the fact that he enjoyed it, and he also really enjoyed Superman. He left one for the other, and then it's like the door is like slammed. It's the most cruel way Gunn could have anyone could have described it. It was like, hey, we've recast you for a younger guy who looks pretty much like you because you look like Superman. But again, just again, you're a pretty young guy too. It's very infinitesimally younger than you. Anyway, so the point being,
like the male version of The Substance.
Yeah. Okay, so regardless, it's just the fact that a lot of people are very understandably upset over Cavill, and they're not really giving Corn Sweat a chance.
To be fair, though, I honestly think the hero worship, pedestal shit with Cavill on the internet is way overblown, honestly.
Well, that's again, it's I think it's the wrong, it's a wrong-minded. It's got a wrong-minded mindset to it. Sorry, I tried to avoid saying mindset twice there. But it's the wrong way to kind of approach it. It's just again, we're establishing a new Superman in the DCU, and I mean, I really do feel that Gunn. I think he's putting forward the tone that he wants, or I think he knows exactly what he wants to say about it. Basically, I think what Gunn's trying to do is he's trying to embody what Superman stands for, and basically what Superman kind of is in troubled times.
And for better or for worse, the Superman that we saw in BVS, absolutely not what the Superman that we need today should stand for.
Because that's the thing. The problem is Cavill, the damage was done in terms of we had little
through no fault of his own, through fucking David S. Goyer's fault.
Yeah, I mean, look, the tragedy with Cavill Superman is that, I mean, for better or for worse, I mean, the best Superman performance we got out of him was the Joss Whedon version of Justice League, because that's the only time he's
oh my god, yeah, no, that's such a weird outlier of the old DC stuff, is the fact that the Joss Whedon version of Justice League generally pretty awful. That Cavill performance genuinely better than the Snyder cut.
He's in the blue, he's in the costume, and he's smiling, and he's kind of having a good time.
Right,
he's that's Superman. Yeah. He's racing against the Flash. That's a Superman that I would like to see. Teasing him about
Cavill looked like Superman, but he did not feel like Superman.
Sadly, that's sadly the thing there. The point being, the damage is already done, so I understand why we made the clean break. Regardless, so I feel the tone of the trailer is that, okay, this is James Gunn's kind of statement on Superman is representation of the truth, justice, the American way is applied to the world today.
I just think the editing in the trailer is masterful. How, essentially the first half is just him struggling in that crater, which, by the way, I'm convinced the movie is going to start with him landing in that ice tundra, I'm convinced that's going to be kind of essentially James Gunn's better version of you might be wondering how I got myself into this situation.
A lot of people pointed, there's one, I'm trying to steer away from all the negativity with it, but there's one really funny thing people pointed out with the impact gag. The way Superman kind of lands.
Is it the whole that it looks like
Yamcha.
Yeah, Yamcha.
Yamcha from Dragon Ball Z.
Again, I'm thinking on names tonight, apparently.
So I know it did kind of crack me up. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, the fact that we have crypto. I mean, for me, here's what it boils down to, and here's what gives me all the confidence in the world. Then, okay, I'm going by the old Donner. There's a lot of love to the Donner Superman in this, but with that in mind, the casting I'm psyched out of my mind for is Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, which I think is perfect casting.
Sure, absolutely.
I love her in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I think she's flawless.
Mrs. Maisel is a show I need to catch up on. It's on my to-do list.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. In making the Donner Superman, the make or break thing of that film, they knew from the get-go. Tom Mankiewicz said it best: is that if you buy these two crazy kids getting together, if you buy the love story, the whole movie's going to work, and it did. And we've seen this with My Adventures with Superman, the animated show. So it feels like this thing does feel a lot like my Adventures with Superman in terms of what we're going for.
I like the idea that we're gonna start the movie where it's like none of this bullshit of like, oh, Clark's kind of adorable, but I've got the hots for Superman. Like none of that bullshit. She's gonna know who Superman is by the time the movie starts.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So it sounds like the love story we've kind of glimpsed there. I think we're going to be in good hands if we nail that. I think the whole movie is going to go pretty smoothly. The one internety kind of thing that's really kind of getting the trailer down right now. Like the criticism is that I feel so bad for him. Poor Nathan Fillion, who's finally able to play a Green Lantern live action. Poor Nathan Fillion. He's being raked over the coals. Not he himself, but the whole trailer, the whole pride's being raked over the coals because the hairstyle. I still think it's just an in context. And I think when we actually see him doing other stuff, it's going to look better. But the hair looks very much like a wig, and the costume doesn't look super green. It's like Guy Gardner, look at him. He looks like crap. But it's like, guys, it's like one shot in the trailer. We can't
again, like these DC fanboys have been like just literally like hypercritical over every single visual component of this movie. So, frankly, I don't really have anything in stock. Like, I don't really take any visual criticism seriously.
All I know is Superman's saving kids. He's falling in love with Lois Lane.
Colby says Guy Gardner looks like crap, though. That's his thing.
I know that's kind of the weird. That's the weird thing to traverse there too. Is that he's supposed to look a little ridiculous, but anyway.
Right.
Point being, I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope it goes well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Code Geass, just to play devil's advocate, he says, I feel like the Superman trailer throws Superman under the bus by showing him in pain and needing, I'm just going to call him Crypto, show some respect. He's not Super Dog.
Well, he was the Super Dog, though.
Feels too much like DC League of Super Pets. I mean, Crypto is just like a James Gunn thing, right? Like, I feel like Crypto, to me, the presence of Crypto in the movie is just like a James Gunn signature. And I honestly love the idea. Like, and I think most people can agree that the idea of like showing Superman in that vulnerable state. And I feel like him calling for Crypto is kind of going to be like a broader reflection of how, he's going to need the whole team of DC heroes to fight that, because there's a lot of shit going on. There's Lex Luthor, there's Kaiju, there's God knows what else going on,
Yeah. I mean, I will give it this much merit, is that, again, I think there is a legitimate, like, maybe a fear of, like, our first image is like a beaten Superman where we've done a lot of like dark and like we got to keep going really, like seeing Superman on his heels and beaten up by Batman, all this kind of stuff. It just feels like, but again, I think in context, plus we need to show that.
And again, I just think the editing of the trailer is very triumphant. Yeah. It starts in a dark place, but then by the end of the trailer, we get full-blown, like, Richard Donner Superman triumph,
That's what I'm saying. I think Crypto offsets it, though, is my point, is that we kind of have a dark thing, then we bring the dog in there. I think it's like the symbol is kind of, honestly, given that I think that dog is like modeled after, if not the actual dog of James Gunn in that movie, is like, he's kind of the symbol of like, this is James Gunn coming to brighten up Superman. We kind of start when like kind of that place of Superman. Look, there's James Gunn, little furry white little fight. Again, if James Gunn turned into a dog, given his white hair right now, there's Crypto. He's the symbol of the movie. Look at him.
All right. I think you're going to like this exchange here, Dragon. Colby is very much speaking your language here. Kokia says, I'm not a big fan of the scene of Superman saving the girl because it feels like too much of a reaction to Man of Steel criticisms, even if it wasn't the intention. Colby comes back with, Kokias, buddy, that's Superman. Superman saves people.
Put that on the poster right now. Yes.
Just literally, that should just be the tagline. Just
yes.
Superman saves people.
In this movie, just imagine James Gunn, the only thing he would say in the press is, okay, guys, in this movie, Superman, he saves people.
That's all you need.
Mic drop, and he's out. Like, you wait, see you in July. Superman saves people in this movie.
Which, by the way, speaking of like mic drops, this doesn't even have a fucking title. If I'm remembering right, it doesn't even have the Superman logo.
Oh, I thought we saw the logo. You might be right.
Well, I'm saying it doesn't have like how 89 has the Batman logo as the title. I don't think this has this. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure it just has the release date.
Maybe.
All right. Correct me if I'm wrong, people.
Yep.
Okay, Dragon, we might be looking forward to Superman, but I think most of us are even more looking forward to another legacy character making a triumphant return.
You
I
get
hate to
Tiki.
say this with a straight face. I'm looking forward to this movie, but it's going to be ridiculous. It's probably not going to be very good. Happy Gilmore too.
I really feel they should have timed this more for New Year's specifically, just given the happy of it all. But
look, I like that Adam Sandler's got the beard. I like that he's kind of changing up his look a little bit. I think the main thing that kind of has me sort of interested in this thing is the fact that Shooter McFrickin' Gavin is in this movie, which is a great kind of pull from the original movie. Like, we're stoking up that rivalry again. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna watch this. I'm not expecting it to be like this. This movie's probably gonna be like a 6 out of 10 at best, But
well, I love Christopher McDonald. So I love the Schumer Gavin's always great. And just bringing him back is a delight. Look, I think it's gonna look. Here's the thing. I think Happy Gilmore is very much it's a cash in, but I like the first film. I did. I think it's one of the really good Adam Sandler movies.
I mean, out of the first two Adam Sandler movies, I think, frankly, I think freaking Billy Madison is goddamn unwatchable trash.
I'm just Man, you really don't like Billy Madison.
You really feel, Tiki.
Wow, I didn't know you really hated it that much.
I really hate Billy Madison, Dragon. I can't. That is one of my least favorite Adam Sandler performances, like bar none. I can't stand that movie.
I like the principal in that movie though. I thought he was cute.
Fair enough. But Happy Gilmore, his second movie, just almost polar opposite. I think it's really watchable. I think it still holds up. I'm sure there's probably some humor in it that's a little dated. I haven't watched it in a while, but
look, Happy Gilmore I think it pretty much holds up. There's nothing wrong with it. Plus they have the charm of Carl Weathers for days in Happy Gilmore. That's honestly.
Which, by the way, Happy and Shooter McGavin, they're meeting up at Carl Weathers' character's grave.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I think is kind of a neat pull.
I think it's a classy touch. Obviously, the man, he wasn't going to come back in because he died in the first film.
Right.
Still, just the fact that we're kind of acknowledging it, it feels kind of classy. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. There's really not much story, especially coming back years later.
Well, I think the big question is, Dragon, are we going to get Drew Carey to do the big cameo?
Oh boy. I would like to think they have to. Okay, it'd be really
either Drew Carey or give me Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey might even be funnier. I know it's not The Price is Right, but Steve Harvey's like the game show host.
No, it's got to be Drew Carey. Get out of here with Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey doesn't.
Look, you get out of here with Steve Harvey.
I love Steve. I love Steve Harvey, but the whole point of the joke is that it's The Price is Right.
I know.
Okay, we love Steve Harvey, but Steve Harvey's in enough already.
And Steve Harvey's whole shtick is like reacting to idiots.
Yes, he's great at that, but no, we need Drew Carey. Drew Carey is needed here. They closed down his ride. We need him now.
Also, I'm speaking of like callback jokes. I was going to propose one really funny callback joke for Superman. Wouldn't it be funny if they proposed to take a sexy bath together and then it like hard cut to them in a bathtub and they're like, shit, this isn't sexy at all, Lois. What were we thinking? Yeah, this is kind of a turnoff, Clark. I don't know. Anyways, it was funnier in my head. Fuck you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, here's one for me. 28 years later. Granted, I only saw 28 days later and 28 weeks later, like one time a piece. But Danny Boyle coming back to do this is really exciting. I think the trailer, like the editing on the trailer is really cryptic and creepy. Cillian Murphy is going to be in the movie, even though his character died in 28 days later. So you have to wonder what sort of zombie shenanigans are going to be going on with him. By all intents and purposes, Dragon, I think this is shaping up to be one of my more anticipated movies, at least of the summer, if not of the year. I'm pretty stoked for this.
I mean, is Cillian Murphy in this?
He's been cast, yeah.
That's the thing. So he is. I know who he is. In the movie, I saw there's this one guy who gets up like out of the. I think it's like if he gets like out of the pile of the skulls or something. But he's like like a pile of dirt or something. It's very garish looking. It's a very garish looking effect. We see like this utterly emaciated Cillian Murphy. It looks really interesting. But yeah, they got no skin in the game for 28 years later. But
yeah, I know you don't. Right. Okay, next up we have final trailer, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I don't know, Dragon, man. Look, I'm so part of me thinks the show looks like a fun time. I like that we're going back to like strictly like, like not just nerd Peter Parker, but like 80s like revenge of the nerd stereotype Peter Parker. I think that's fun. Doing stuff with Norman Osborn's interesting. Remind me who we have playing Norman Osborn. It's someone really cool. I remember that.
I don't know if we really stunt casted Norman Osborn on this one. I don't know.
Okay.
I know Charlie Cox is going to be in this
as Daredevil. I'm assuming.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if he's going to be playing Daredevil or just Matt.
No. Norman Osborn is a very cool casting. He's Coleman Domingo.
Oh, right, that's him.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that. Yeah, I forgot that he. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's cool. I just think that like, what are we doing with the MCU continuity at this point? Like, this very much should be a Tom Holland Spider-Man prequel series.
Yeah. Okay. So. Here's what I feel. I think you're not wrong for being mixed on everyone. As far as if I understand, everyone and their mother is very mixed on this. Is that I'm happy to see Spider-Man in animation. I think this is a good faith attempt, a good faith effort, versus like the prior Spider-Man animated things, where it's very much like, okay, it's just we're trying to do Spider-Man. We're trying to market Spider-Man. Basically, because because of all the Sony constraints, it's like, okay, we can do a Spider-Man animated show to show that we are doing something with Spider-Man, even though it's a very soulless, just kind of like it's as plain as anything. It's just it's.
And again, I'll say it again. The animation style, and I don't say this is a bad thing at all. It looks very reminiscent of the very underrated MTV Spider-Man show from the early 2000s.
Sure, and. I mean, here's the thing. It's not. It just feels like the whole show. I think the problem with the show is that while there's promising elements like that, Tiki, it feels like the show is kind of a cheat that it's not in the MCU. This is not technical. This is the multiverse thing at play, and it's because of all the stupid like strings attached with Sony Spider-Man, which still is just ridiculous to me. And apparently, according to Sony recently, because we have no other place to bring this up. Again, according to Sony recently, in their response to all the Kraven the Hunter stuff, that we could have put Spider-Man in those movies. We chose not to.
Sure.
That's what they said. We said we made a choice not to confuse the folks and try and get Tom Holland these things of like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, you had a choice there, right? Anyway, so point being, all of this feels like it's kind of a cheat that we're all these strings attached. We got a Spider-Man in the MCU. It just feels like we can't get a Spider-Man in the MCU as we have him. Instead, it's like something kind of, this is what we could have gotten in the MCU with Spider-Man, but we can't quite make it happen. So here's the next best thing. And our takes on the Osborns seem kind of interesting. Like here's something I never thought of in a million years. We have the iconic weird hairstyle for the Osborns. We can accomplish essentially with cornrows. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool for sure.
The fact that he saves Harry Osborn.
I think that hairstyle actually works better now that they're actual black people.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think that's one of the times where swapping the race really works.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of good potential here. It's always that proviso of like, this is interesting, but again, we're not folding it into like, this is just like the freshman year era of Spider-Man.
And you know what? We'll get to it. You know how I feel about What If, but obviously What If kind of gives me pause on the whole animated MCU side of things.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, the main reason I have to check out this show is I'm anticipating Daredevil, and my real hope of hopes is that with Daredevil showing it, man, if he's in costume, there is the chance we will get D'Onofrio's wish coming true, and that in some way, shape, or form he will be going up against Spider-Man.
I mean, Eli says D'Onofrio is returning for this. I don't know how official that is.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's we know D'Onofrio is returning. Whether he's going to return in this, I don't know.
Right.
All I know is Charlie Cox is, but it would stand to reason if he's going to show up, you would need someone Daredevil could fight, and that would be the Kingpin.
No, but honestly, like as much as we love Daredevil stuff, right?
Yep.
I honestly think the presence of Daredevil and Kingpin, like, again, it's kind of giving me shades of What If, where it's like, if this is really going to like dive deep into the Spider-Man lore and the relationship between Peter Parker and Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn, do we really need Matt Murdock? Do we really need Kingpin? Like, I don't know, man. I'll definitely watch it, but like, if I'm not sold on the first couple episodes, I don't know if I'm going to finish this thing.
I do have to wonder, hypothetically, if this, let's say for argument's sake, it goes really well, and especially if, let's say, Daredevil and Kingpin definitely perform well, is this a gateway to the no-brainer of like, okay, Spider-Man 4, we've made so far, hopefully, fingers crossed, we've made so many right decisions with how we're approaching Daredevil with Born Again, maybe. Like, hey, let's make Spider-Man 4 have Daredevil and the Kingpin actually in it.
I mean, I would hope that's especially considering there's literally nowhere to go with Spider-Man but to be more street level. So
yeah. I mean, here all I know is, again, everything's so unconfirmed and everything, but there's like rumors of them going in a really stupid direction. My hope is that they would have an epiphany like they did with Daredevil Born Again. We were going to go in a really stupid direction. We realized the error in our ways, and then we fixed it. My hope is that they're doing that with Spider-Man, the error in their ways being adjusted. Let's go with the thing everyone wants to see, which is Daredevil and Kingpin.
If only they could have had that foresight with What If. Hey guys, we lost the plot of this show. This isn't even the original premise anymore.
Okay, wait till we get there. Okay,
we're desperate. Dragon, I'm trying.
Just wait. Say anything you want about it. Just wait till we get there. Right. Okay, anyway, also, I don't like the jersey look on him, but that seems to be intentional, though. Like, we're calling out, like, was my costume really that bad? And we're going to fix him up, so we'll get there.
All right, next up, we got December 2024 movies. All right. A Complete Unknown. Dragon, you have this listed on top. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
All right. Dragon, I'm not gonna mix words here. You might think this is hyperbolic nonsense, but I truly believe this. I honestly think A Complete Unknown, and granted, I'm a big Bob Dylan fan. Folk music is my favorite genre of music. This might be the best musical biopic I've ever seen.
Really?
Dragon, I'm saying, like, obviously the subject matter has me more interested in it than I was in something like Queen. But, like, I really think that, because here's the thing with this biopic, it is absolutely not Cradle to the Grave at all. It covers, like, 4 years. It covers Dylan's rise in the folk music scene in New York, all the way up to when he blows that scene wide open by going electric. It has it all builds up to the very famous moment in the 65 Newport Folk Festival where he plugs in and does electric music and everyone hates it, but it is kind of a trailblazing music that ultimately kind of like paves the way for mixing genres. Timothée Chalamet is just incredible. I mean, he is like, he's got the cadence of Dylan. He's got the stature of Dylan. He's got the swagger of Dylan. He sings his own songs. He plays his own instruments. It's a hell of a performance. Edward Norton is just such a nice guy, but at the same time, he's a nice guy that goes against everything that Dylan's trying to achieve. So there's that great kind of push and pull. Boyd Holbrook is an amazing Johnny Cash, and Johnny Cash comes in at just the right sections of the movie. It's paced just perfectly. I've seen it twice. There is no dull stretch of this movie, which is very hard to say with musical biopics. I think this thing's pretty much flawless, man. I really do. Honestly, I think this thing, to kind of spoil my thoughts on Nosferatu, I still love Nosferatu, but obviously Nosferatu was my number one most anticipated of the year. A Complete Unknown kind of stole Christmas from Nosferatu for me. It was that good. Like, this thing really blew me away. It's definitely going to be in my top 5 of the year.
I'm just imagining, the Grinch sounding like Bob Dylan.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. All right.
Oh, by the way, you never end up watching the Greatest Night in Pop, did you?
No, I still need to.
Well, that's because there's a great Bob Dylan story in that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
But Tiki, have you seen the Robbie Williams monkey movie? Dragon, are you aware of the Robbie Williams monkey?
Tiki, I am aware of the Robbie Williams monkey movie.
What the fuck? That's all I'll say about that. I mean, like, doing Pharrell as Lego, I can get behind that. Robbie Williams as a monkey, yeah, maybe not.
You wanted more, you wanted more kind of alternative biopic styles, Tiki. There you go.
Yeah, but this is a little too much.
You asked for it. There you go. You're gonna refuse the monkey movie?
We just thought it was tonight's mystery movie at Regal. Oh God. That's the thing. I could not imagine going into that movie and not knowing that was what I was going to go see. Like, I need to mentally prepare myself for that movie. Oh,
you know the best way to summarize that movie?
What?
Monkey Man.
Yeah. Well, we had that last year.
All right. Well, wouldn't that be great if, like, during that screening, someone just like stood up and wearing the cape and the shirt and says "Monkey Man"?
I mean, I wasn't going to wear the cape, but you don't know how tempted I was to actually do that. Otherwise,
well, you have nothing to lose. Why not?
I have my dignity. I have my respect in that theater to lose.
You lost all that dignity ages ago. Come on.
Nah. Anyways. Okay, carry on. Dragon, I'll let you start with this. I saw it, but man, I don't have a lot to say about it.
All right, so Carry On was a thriller directed by Jamil Collet-Serra. Now, this guy did the Jungle Cruise movie and The Commuter. I bring up The Commuter because it's adjacent to. It's kind of it's almost a travelogue. We do go on the plane by the end. It's kind of like I like The Commuter. It was a Liam Neeson film.
They get a whole 3 miles away from the airport.
Yeah. Anyway, so look, I thought this was, I honestly, it was just more of like just to get something on the list. I remember this thing was coming. The Everest Carry On is coming in December. Be sure to watch it. And and I heard that Bateman was in it. It was like, and Egerton. I like Egerton. I like Bateman sometimes. And I figured, let's give it a shot. I thought this was a very solid suspense movie. I enjoyed it. I like that it's kind of in reverence to Die Hard, more specifically Die Hard 2, given the airport setting. But look, I really like the especially given a lot of Die Hard, given the dying between the whole fake terrorist, or I guess fake, ultimately real, but overall kind of fake terrorist, and the
Bateman does kind of have vaguely Alan Rickman hair in this movie.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But that's the thing, he's got style like Rickman. The thing, but he's he's over. We overhear him on the earpiece, very much like Rickman. Rickman and Bruce Willis in that film. I like the TSA angles. Seeing the day to day for the TSA, and kind of we take kind of something very mundane, then we kind of turn it dramatic and important. And we set in the airport on Christmas Eve. I think that's a solid start to this story. Again, with the Die Hard 2 vibes. I love Jason Bateman in this film. He's
definitely the best part of it.
And I think Egerton, he really stretches the muscles that we've been saying about him for years. Where he's the man. He's got leading man potential, as we've seen in Kingsman and Rocket Man. The man's got chops, and he's good. And it just, I was sucked in.
I kind of got the vibe that they hired him because they couldn't afford a Glenn Powell.
Well, Glenn Powell already had his movie, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so I was sucked in. I was wondering what the heck is this poor TSA guy gonna do next? You feel for the TSA guy taken hostage by the clever criminal.
It's like some light Hitchcockian fluff.
I mean, sure, I guess. I love the little logistical things at certain points. I love the logistics of the plastic gun in terms of the logic. You shoot it too much, it's going to blow up, and the danger of that. I basically at the end of the day, the movie is the more
twist involving the original person that we think is the guy carrying the bomb on the plane. I thought that was well done.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of look. I'm not saying it's Yates. I'm not saying it's like the best action film of the year or anything, or thriller of the year. But you know what? I just enjoyed this. It's kind of like the moral of Get Out: never underestimate TSA.
Oh God, Yeah, I mean, I very much watched this similar to you. I was at a movie night with some friends, and we just decided to turn this one on because we had all heard of it. I thought it was all right. Like it didn't really blow me. Honestly, I kind of got lost in a lot of the logic of it. Like for example, there's a scene early on where one of the TSA guys just falls dead right in the middle of the airport, and there's not really much of a to do about it. And that kind of like, because if that actually happened, if a TSA agent just fucking fell dead in the middle of an airport, it would be chaos, Dragon. It would be
it was kind of chaos.
No, but chaos. It was in the movie. It was chaos that could be cleaned up in a matter of minutes, and then no one's even questioning it after that. I don't know.
Right.
I just had a hard time buying some of the logic with it, but it's not really the type of movie you're supposed to think too hard about. It was a decent time, a solid like. I would give it like a 5 out of 10. That's probably being a little too harsh on it. I
love that the director of this clearly loves the Albuquerque verse, because in the Commuter, Jonathan Banks has a small role in it, and here Dean Norris has a small role.
Yes, yeah, I did like Dean Norris. Yeah, the scene with Dean Norris was probably the scene where he's confronting Taron Egerton, and then they have to deal with him. That was probably one of the best scenes in the movie.
I love the whole you wrote a speech, didn't you? Show me the speech. He reads. I love that he reads through the speech and then they cut through the BS. I like Dean Norris, man. Yeah, love him. Okay.
Alrighty. Okay. Next up on my end, we got Mufasa. Yeah. I literally fell asleep like halfway through this thing, Dragon. This thing was.
Are you serious? Really,
yeah.
Mister? This whole time of like, oh come on, dude, you're not going to enjoy Mufasa. Like, it's Jenkins though.
I still think I probably would have enjoyed it better than Sonic 3 if I would have actually seen Sonic 3. I
gotta be honest. I think you'd prefer Sonic 3 to this.
There is some stuff that this movie does do well. Specifically, I think the character of Rafiki is handled really well. Like, we actually see why Rafiki has as much reverence and respect for Mufasa as he does in the original Lion King, and we see that come about in a really natural and kind of beautiful way, honestly. Like, the best scene in the movie is Rafiki, like, I won't give away the context, but, you know, after something dramatic happens and Mufasa steps in for him, he's like, "You are my brother." And it melts your heart, man. It, like, as a lifelong Lion King fan, I was like, all right, that's the kind of like cool prequel context I was looking for. Generally speaking, I think the casting and the effects in this movie are just all way better than the original. The directing too. Honestly, the most boring part, and this is going to sound weird, Mads Mikkelsen. He has the worst song in the movie by a pretty considerable margin, and his character basically boils down to like, you killed my son who was in like literally 1 minute of screen time, so I'm gonna seek vengeance on you, Mufasa. And it's not great. Mufasa and Scar literally have a falling out because of a fucking love triangle involving Sarabi, which again, not great. Timon and Pumbaa are basically Deadpool in this movie. They're just breaking the fourth wall all the time. Even like, I don't have as much of a problem with that as a lot of people do. I think there's some Lion King 1.5 upside to it. There's some funny jokes about the Broadway show. There's some funny jokes about how like they're like Rafiki's building up this story to clearly be about Scar, and they're just not getting that it's about Scar. So I think Timon and Pumbaa are fine in this movie, but I'm in the minority. I think the whole middle chunk of this movie is boring as shit. I think the first chunk of this movie with Mufasa and Scar as kids is relatively entertaining. I think the last act of this movie, once they get to the Pride Lands, is actually really good, because that's when we really start to like put the connective tissue together on the Lion King. Overall, it's fine. It's not nearly the cinematic goddamn atrocity that the Jon Favreau Lion King is. It still doesn't need to exist, but it's fine for what it is. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It's closer to a 5 than a 6. All right. Okay, next up. All right, we both saw this, I assume, right? Juror number 2?
Uh-huh. So juror number 2.
Why don't you hit him first?
Possibly Clint Eastwood's last movie. He's getting up there. Not for a lack of like wanting to do more, but I'm just saying, playing the odds.
It might very well be his last Warner Brothers movie, if anything else.
Sure. I thought this was great. It's 12 Angry Men with a very interesting plot twist. I love our cast is fantastic in this movie. Nicholas Hoult really carries the movie very strongly. Here's what really impressed me, because of course we all know J.K. Simmons is always like one of the best parts of any movie that he's in. He was good in this, but let me tell you who really impressed me.
I feel like J.K. Simmons was great. I just feel like his character gets written out, and he shouldn't have been written out.
Well, I think if he's in the movie,
even if he's out of the jury, he should have still been around. He should have still been a thorn in the side of the lead character, I think.
Well, that's true, but I kind of respect that we did. I think we were all expecting that, though. We kind of went another way.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, J.K. Simmons has this thing, like it even happened in Red One, which I didn't get around to seeing. But
it was not as it wasn't the same as what we did to him.
No, but I'm just saying, it's kind of a pattern with J.K. Simmons where he shows up, he's really good, he's not in a lot of it. It's kind of the same pattern with John Lithgow. John Lithgow shows up in Conclave for like maybe 3 scenes, which he's really good in. But John Lithgow has yet to have his meaty of a role as the Trinity Killer ever since Dexter. It's frustrating.
Also, he passed on his suspicions to the attorney, and then she kind of the DA, and she ran with that. And I said we made the most out of his screen time, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's who really impressed me. No one's talking about this. Cedric Yarborough, good actor. I've loved him in a lot of things. He's always been. He's very much kind of like I guess you'd call him a character actor. He's popped up. He's been very much like kind of like he was on the Goldbergs and like supporting comedic role. And you trust me, you've seen him once you see this guy. But I thought he was really good as like the stubborn juror who's very much like, I'm not. This guy's clearly guilty.
Right. Yeah, and I do like how the movie does kind of I like this movie a lot. I'd give it like probably a solid 8 out of 10, maybe. I do like how the jury is kind of constantly shifting around in a really realistic way as far as who's on what side.
I just love they all feel like real people with very different life experiences and priorities. Like the one lady just wants to get out of there for her kids. And and I love Keith Sutherland.
Let's face it, though, Clint Eastwood totally should have cast James Marsden in this somewhere. Maybe James Marsden should have been the guy who was on trial.
No, he's too attractive to murder. Tiki.
Yeah, I know.
No, you're right. That would have been really fun. But then if he was there, we all would have suspected. Wait a minute, what if it's all set up? Because then he would have used he would have played himself. He would have tried to use a celebrity. Here's like James Marsden should have been one of the jurors who actually the judge actually excused him. But you know what? You're too famous.
That'd be fun. Yeah, for sure.
No. But seriously though,
he's just playing himself again.
Yep. Anyway, no. I love Keith Sutherland had a really great. That's what I'm talking about. We made the most out of these.
I love Keith Sutherland's role in this, man. He was really great.
I've told you. Did you ever?
I think he's a shitty drug therapist. Honestly,
well, he's not a drug therapist. He's not a drug therapist. He's a sponsor who's also his lawyer.
Okay, yeah, but I'm saying I think he's a shitty sponsor.
Well, I mean, he basically. Well, okay. To be fair, when I say sponsor, I think he runs like the church group thing. But even, how is he? How is he not good? Because he's not really.
I don't know. I don't think he gives him good legal advice, honestly.
I think he gave him accurate legal advice, telling him, well, this is the risk that you run. He's his lawyer after he gives him the $1. And he's like telling him, look, again, so the stakes in which Keith Sutherland lays out here, I think, are very to the point, just very much like, okay, look, because of your status as as a recovering alcoholic, there's no jury in the world will believe that that this wasn't you. And I love the ambiguity, by the way, that we don't know that he necessarily perpetrated this crime. It looks a lot like he did, but we don't know that for a fact, and neither does he. So the uncertainty would be enough to hang him, and that's the point that he makes.
Fact that even Nicholas Hoult doesn't know for sure he did it. Yeah, that's what the lawyer's trying to convey to him, that just the uncertainty and just all the factors you have running against you, and the fact that now you're bringing up that you're on the jury, and all of this would hang the man if he did bring it up, and that puts him exactly in the position of the very likely innocent man who is on trial. And I love he's an innocent man. but he's not an innocent man.
Yeah, he's not a good man.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the thing.
He's
I
not a
love.
nice man for sure.
You're not a nice man. But seriously, this is what Eastwood's doing so great in this movie, though. It's a fascinating moral dilemma that the director thrives in. It's very much, it kind of takes almost like a Richard Jewell position, then we take it a step further, like kind of the other side of it, like from the spectator's side of it, I guess. And I don't know. I just thought it was very well made. Again, it's very on point. I think a lot of people have been really liking the movie despite its kind of silly release.
I will say that it dropping on Max pretty much immediately, like, they still botched the theatrical release, but at the end of the day, this isn't really a movie you have to see in theaters anyway, so I do like the fact that a lot of people were able to see it pretty quickly.
Yeah, apparently Eastwood wanted.
I mean, that's more than we can say for something like The Brutalist, which I'm gonna have to go all the way to San Francisco to see this Friday, or even something like Sing Sing, which that's a whole fucking thing. But yeah, so at least this is accessible.
So I think I read somewhere that Eastwood he wanted the theatrical release. Like,
I'm sure he did.
No, I mean the way that it was actually released.
The way that it was really.
That's what I heard. I heard that he wanted and basically it was kind of like, well, look, we gotta draw a line, get people to go to theaters no matter what. So if they really want to see this, they're gonna have to seek it out. Which again, he's basically making a plea for theaters, but in a way that I think really backfired on him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah,
I'm gonna paraphrase the villain from Big Hero 6 when you say this. That was your mistake. You didn't have to drive 50 miles to Boston. You should have realized it was a Warner Brothers movie and it was going to be put on Max pretty soon. Anyways,
there's the point being, I was very impressed with this movie, and hopefully this is in part. I want to say hopefully not his last movie in the sense of I don't want it to be.
If it is his last movie, I think it's a good one to go out.
That's what I just mean, like hopefully not his last movie in the sense of like then he left untethered himself from the moral coil that soon. But here's the thing. If it does go that way, this is a great finale for him. Even if he's hung it up, period. He's retired from directing. This is the one to go out on. You're right. This is a great finale for him, career-wise.
Also, I want to just acknowledge the ending is really, really solid.
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
So greatly ambiguous.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, next up we have...
So it lived up to the hype, you'd say, right?
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
All right. We have Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. Did anyone say it like that in the movie?
Fuck no, I wish.
Because here's the thing, we know the director likes the SpongeBob episode. We know he does.
The director also lives and breathes historical accuracy in the dialogue, so it is what it is.
Well, okay, let me ask you this one quick question. Was there a sponge anywhere in the movie?
I don't think so. But then again, I don't know if sponges were invented in 1830s Germany.
I mean, there is such a thing as just, it's just like stretching the believability.
No, not in Robert Eggers' world. Not in Robert Eggers' world.
It's just a sponge, though.
Yeah, you don't know Robert Eggers, man. He's a perfectionist.
Don't they have to clean the floors?
All right. So this is my third favorite Robert Eggers movie out of the 4 he's done. I definitely think I still would put The Lighthouse and The Witch above this one. I mean, that being said, it's still a very, very good movie. I would probably give it a solid 8 out of 10, leaning more towards a 9. I honestly think the reason it doesn't land with me quite as much as those other two, I definitely like it more than The Northman, is because at the end of the day, those The Witch was unlike anything I'd ever seen as far as being the most purified version of what a New England folk tale is. And then The Lighthouse is just very much on its it's like a freaking Lovecraftian epic. It's just so unconventional in the way it was shot, the sound design, everything about it. This is more conventional. This is definitely the most conventional movie Eggers has done. It's probably even more conventional than The Northman. That being said, it's probably one of the better Dracula movies that's ever been made. I don't want to go as far as to say it's better than the Bela Lugosi Dracula, just because, that movie has like almost 100 years of legacy on it. But I think the best part of this movie, obviously the production design's great, the cinematography, technically speaking, it's awesome. The cast really nails it, though. Nicholas Hoult is awesome again, although he kind of falls out of the movie a little bit in the second act, but that's kind of Jonathan Harker's thing in the story. Jonathan Harker's there to get the plot rolling, but he doesn't really follow through. Lily Rose Depp Dragon, yes, the one half of the Yoga Hosers duo. Dragon, she is a phenomenon in this movie. Like, she does things with her body and her eyes I have never seen any actor do, period. I mean, her physical performance in this thing is incredible. It's genuinely like some shocking imagery that she's able to convey just through the use of her body. It's really a phenomenal performance. It's a star-making performance. I also think that Ralph Ineson, our Galactus Dragon, I truly think that with this movie, this dude is kind of like, he really is kind of becoming the spiritual successor to Alan Rickman as far as screen presence goes. I really think he's got that kind of cadence, that deep voice, that sense of authority, that kind of slightly intimidating factor. I really love him. Willem Dafoe is awesome in everything he does, and it's no exception here. I mean, it's not quite as memorable of a performance as The Lighthouse, but what is when it comes to Willem Dafoe, that really is his magnum opus. This is also really good. He plays like a more crazy, but also somehow more sympathetic Van Helsing type figure. And then Orlok, Bill Skarsgård. Dragon, all I could say about Bill Skarsgård in this movie is that, without giving away exactly how it's barely a performance, but I say that in a good way. Like, it's less of a performance and it's more like a presence. And they do it in the way that, like, they barely show Orlok. Like, there might be Orlok is present throughout the movie, but the actual amount of screen time that you see his face is maybe like 5 minutes, probably less than that, honestly. But they convey all of Orlok's presence through sound design and shadow work, and it's very faithful to the original black and white movie in that regard. Just dripping with atmosphere. I mean, I don't want to say it was a disappointment, because frankly, I had such high expectations for it. It was almost impossible to live up to. It was really, really, really solid. It's just not my favorite Robert Eggers movie. It might be Robert Eggers' masterpiece, but it's not my favorite Robert Eggers movie, if that makes sense. So yeah. All right. Obviously, I don't think it's your type of movie. There's some really grisly shit in it. Okay. Next up, I have Mufasa twice, but I don't think that, right? That's
yeah, I think that is it's probably a clerical error on that one. Yeah,
it's all good, no problem.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, still, you said there's two left of both of you, so
just consider it the whole, like, the hyena bit. Mufasa, ooh, Mufasa, ooh.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Oh, by the way, there's no electricity in those Nosferatu, right?
I don't think so. No,
I had a feeling, because if there were
candlelight,
yeah.
Well, what he could do is he could just like put out a candle and then light the candle again and then put it out and then light it again and then put it out.
Yeah, Nosferatu's better things to do than if it was just like a literal flip of a switch, he could mess with people like that.
I mean, he does have supernatural powers, so he doesn't necessarily have to light the candle. He can just flick the candle off and on.
It's just like there's only 3 things Eggers could have done, and he couldn't do any of them.
Well, if that makes it a bad movie,
no, doesn't make it a bad. I'm just saying I feel bad for him. Even if all the 3 things he could have done to reference much, he couldn't do anything because of the period.
Colby says I've got it number 2 behind the lighthouse. Yeah, I need to see The Witch again. Like, I think The Witch stands out in my mind more than Nosferatu does, just for how original it is. I need to see it again, though. Like, Anyways, Colby says, I adore how excited Willem Dafoe has been about all the live rats in the press tour. Drake, there is so many rats. So like the amount of rats in this movie would make Ratcatcher 2 nervous.
Wow.
And not just rats, but plague rats.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty shit. Oh, and also I should acknowledge, Dragon, guess what? This movie broke new ground for me.
It broke new ground.
It's the first time that I saw Aaron Taylor Johnson in something and I actually thought he was good and had good screen presence.
Well, there you go.
He wasn't just a fucking block of wood.
You know, Aaron Taylor Johnson's mom watches this.
No, she doesn't.
How do you know?
I know. But no, seriously, he does genuinely, like, to say it's the best Aaron Taylor Johnson performance is an insult to this performance. It's a genuinely really good performance on his end. I was proud of him. And he's in some really high profile stuff next year, so that kind of makes me a little bit more excited for that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, next up we got Flow. Do you know anything about this thing, Dragon?
It's an animated movie about a cat in water.
Yeah, pretty much. So Dragon, this movie, the way I describe it is it's essentially the naturalistic animated movie that we all wanted Disney's Dinosaur to be. Yeah. Obviously there's no dinosaurs in it. There is like basically a kaiju whale in it. That's kind of dinosaur-esque. But essentially it's like the cat befriends like a dog. Oh, help me out, Colby. There's a dog, a crane, a monkey, or I'm sorry, a lemur. And what's the other thing, Colby? Is it a mongoose? Help me out here. Capybara. Yeah, thank you. So it's like this kind of ragtag group of animals, but they're super naturalistic. They don't utter an actual line of dialogue to each other the whole movie. It's an entirely dialogue-less movie. It's a secretary bird, not a crane. Well, excuse me, Mr. Zoologist. I'm so sorry. All right.
Zoology.
Yeah, it's just really naturalistic. The environments are beautiful. The imagery of the flood, like there's what I really love about this movie is just like it tells so much about like it's post-apocalyptic, and there's so much about the world building that is like left up to the imagination. Like the fact that there's these giant cat statues and giant human statues that kind of litter the landscape and are slowly being swallowed up by the rising tide. We don't know how the flood starts. We see a flashback to when the flood starts from the cat's perspective, but we have no idea what's going on, really. Yeah, I don't know. I think this thing really knocked it out of the park. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. I think it's probably going to get nominated for Best Animated Film. It won a Golden Globe Award winner, Flow. Yeah, and I would definitely check it out, Dragon, if you get a chance, because if anything else, it's a very original animated movie.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Monkey says, I didn't even know the word secretary bird existed till after seeing this movie. Suddenly, I kind of understand the name of the principal secretary on KIF. I don't know what KIF is. All right. Well, VOD tomorrow. Yeah, nice. Okay, and finally, I won't spend a lot of time on this. Baby Girl. All I can say about this one, Dragon, it's one of the bigger disappointments of the year for me. It's a Nicole Kidman, Harris Dickinson joint. Nicole Kidman is fine. Harris Dickinson is fine. The problem is, I truly feel like this movie was wildly mismarketed because essentially the trailer kind of shows that Nicole Kidman is a CEO at this like basically an Amazon company that's frankly a little too futuristic for the movie's own good. It's kind of like Amazon in 5 years. Like, what would that look like when it's like all automated? But I feel like the movie doesn't earn the kind of like slight futurism of that. It's just kind of like in the background. That kind of bothered me more than anything else. But anyways, Nicole Kidman's the CEO. Harris Dickinson is her new intern. Antonio Banderas is her loving but kind of docile husband. Nicole Kidman has a kink. she wants to be she wants a BDSM relationship. She wants to be slapped around. I don't know how to put this lightly. I don't know how to put it delicately. She basically wants Harris Dickinson to be her like master essentially in a BDSM relationship. The trailer promises that it's going to be basically like a role reversal, right? Like Harris Dickinson has the power in the relationship. Nicole Kidman has the power in the professional setting, and how is that going to intermix? Like the trailer made it look like a really intriguing kind of like, thriller about like corporate roles and sexual roles, and it very much looked like it had the upside to be this year's May December, which if you remember May December I really loved. That was on my
I remember you really liked May December, yeah.
So I was fully going into this movie kind of expecting it to be this year's May December. Instead, it's basically just like Nicole Kidman does have that kink, but they don't really explore it. They don't really go into the actual power dynamics of it. You barely even see Harris Dickinson in like dominant mode at all. The whole thing is basically just like, look at Nicole Kidman cheating on Antonio Banderas with this handsome younger man. And oh no, I hope she doesn't get caught. Oh, look, she got caught. And on that level, Dragon, it's truly disappointing. It really is. I mean, it's not an awful movie when you just look at it as a movie about like a marriage falling apart, but it's not the type of movie that I want to watch. Colby and I both have the same thing where we don't really care for cheating in real life or in fiction. It just kind of feels like an easy plot drama. And yeah, I don't know. Just a pretty big disappointment. Definitely the worst new release that I saw this month. All right. Okay. Next up, we got TV.
Let's see what's on.
Oh boy, Dragon, I'll let you go first with What If. All right.
All right. Look, so What If? This is the last season, season 3, mixed bag, weak finish. From the beginning, What If really limited themselves with the whole, like, it's one specific difference versus just like it's a multiverse where it can be any number of differences, like we saw in Multiverse of Madness. You have pizza balls, you got like the red light, green light means something different, a number of differences. And for some reason we didn't adhere to that in What If. And I get they're going with the whole variancy, the idea like the timeline splits off because of the one decision, and it's like the whole like it's the odd infinitum of the multiverse thing we've kind of seen with DC. But I still think they limit themselves in a way that never really tracked, and that was always like the kryptonite of that show. And basically, I think it would have allowed them a lot more freedom and a lot more like ways they could go in. So I think the highlights of this season there are two highlights. So there was the What If Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier episode, which
that was absolutely my favorite episode. Yeah,
agreed. Now, I know this next one didn't tickle you, but I still liked it. I'm saying, again, I think these two together were great. So you had Red Guardian, and then the other one was What If Howard the Duck got hitched. So basically, a continuation of like the gag that even you liked from that Party Thor episode, which was Darcy and Howard the Duck kind of getting hitched. So we kind of sequelized that, and
I like the premise of it, but the direction they go in with it, I was not crazy about.
I mean, look, it's just this as like the one fun, silly episode of the season. I thought it was a premise that made sense, and then it kind of went. Sorry. The other one was the one. So the Red Guardian Winter Soldier episode is like the classic What If that makes sense and the logic tracks. This one. Was just fun, and it was just kind of utter fun insanity. And like we have like the moment we have like Thanos showing up, you summoned me here for an egg, like that's really funny. Come on, it was just here. Honestly, what I like about it, Tiki, is that it's basically a taste of what the Howard the Duck show could have possibly been. I really like that.
Sure, that is true. Yeah.
Oh, it was an utterly fun one. And beyond that, I mean, you have a couple episodes that have premises that are interesting, and then they fumble the ball. It's like, for example, Shang-Chi in the Old West. Great idea. Using the Hood, a Marvel villain we haven't gotten yet, who kind of ties into the Daredevil and the Kingpin potentially. That's like as basically the enemy who tried to usurp the Kingpin's power, and they like having the Hood there. Period. Cool character. Reveal of who the Hood was. Freaking sucked. It's just it just wrecked it. And we kind of have that with a lot of these. Where okay, what if the emergence from the Eternals? Actually, we had a real mad crush on the Eternals this season for some reason. The one Marvel movie absolutely
Yeah,
no
that
one
was
liked.
yeah.
You know, we have the mech episode in which we have all these characters who have mechs who have no business having mechs.
That was not a fucking good omen for the season.
The best part of that episode was the 2-day opener.
Mm.
So, you know, it's just, and the finale was a thing where, again, we have we kept, the thing
It
really
was
bugged
cool the first time they did it, but by the third season, it just got way too predictable.
Exactly. It feels like the finale of season 1, in which, okay, what if we paid off all these events?
And even then, I think when they did it in season 1, I think it got stretched out a little too much.
Well, it was only 2 episodes, but
yeah, but I think they could have fit it into 1 episode. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you're right. Maybe they could have, but just the idea that we end on kind of a downer and how the heck are we going to get out of this big crossover episode? I don't know. I think that was at least an episode.
Like,
season 1.
I think what they should have done is they should have put that into 1 episode and then, you know, made the Peggy Carter episode from season 2 into season 1.
All right, fair point. Regardless, just the idea of like, okay, the Watcher is going to break his oath in a big way that will save everyone, and it was like a big event. Like, I think it should only happen, count them once. Like, that should be the big event story that we only do one time, and everything else we're kind of playing.
It's kind of like, this guy's got a problem, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, I mean, on one hand, look, okay, I think the way it should have, in the grand scheme of the series, the way it should have played as, okay, season 1, that was like the big one exception. And then beyond that, basically, then his superiors took note of that one incident, and then they're calling him on it by the end. That would have made sense to me. But the fact that no, season 2 also did a big similar crossover story in which, then we reveal,
returns, and then by the time we get to season 3, it's just like, what are we doing, guys?
And he's doing it all over the place this season, which feels like, why is he doing it all over the place? He does. He kind of deserves it, kind of taking on the chin a little this season. You know, we have Jason Isaacs as the Eminence, who was really good casting, and I like the point. I love the conversation at the end with the Eminence. I like the idea that the action in that crossover is pretty cool, but it just feels like we don't need another look. We need the Watcher justifying his actions and having a conversation with the Eminence. We don't need a whole drawn out, we have to kill the Watcher. We don't need that.
Right.
You know, I think the Watcher justifying his findings in an intellectual conversation would have played, but it doesn't animate well, I think is what they ultimately kind of factor. No, the kids need action. So I don't know. So it was very much a mixed bag and not the way I wanted the show to end, but you know, at least I had 2 good episodes. That's really all I can really say about it.
Yeah, the fact that it actually has 2 episodes that are really good, that's like literally the one thing I can say about Secret Invasion, which as far as I'm concerned, that's like the one show that's even more bottom of the barrel than this is as far as MCU stuff. I hated the season, Dragon. It was a fucking slog to get. And honestly, I think that if they would have just started on I think it was a big mistake to not start on the Agatha episode, because we're coming off of the high of Agatha all along.
Yeah, the mech thing was just again, the mech thing feels like we're trying to advertise Captain America New World Order, and it just, you know.
Yeah, but the mech thing, like I had such a potent, like, why the hell am I even watching this? It's a bunch of fucking superheroes trying to save the world, and they're in giant mechs, and it's...
You know what the dumbest mech was for me?
What?
Moon Knight doesn't need a mech.
Oh my God. Finally... Fucking Moon Knight barely even fucking registers as a character. None of them register as characters.
And here's the thing, like, Moon Knight should have been a big, because Moon Knight's cool. It should have been a big deal.
Been a big deal to be in it. Yeah. I don't know. This show's a goddamn mess. Good riddance. I mean, it could have been really good if they would have just stuck to the anthology format, but they couldn't.
Plus, I really hated the decision.
They flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, there you go. I really hated the decision they made to kill off a specific character. But as you probably realize, I will say this though, I did love in the Agatha episode that we brought back Jarvis.
Yeah, that was
great. And plus, he was a little reunion.
Outside of the 2 episodes that you mentioned, I actually probably like the Agatha episode a little bit more than, because here's the thing with Howard the Duck episode. Obviously I like Howard the Duck. Obviously, I'm going to take as much Howard the Duck as I can get. We do not need Howard the Duck's nightmare fuel fucking duck human hybrid teenage daughter. And we especially don't need her to be a part of the fucking Guardians of the Multiverse.
Okay, what? Why did? Here's that I don't get to you. Why does she scare you that much?
I don't. There's something about the design that's
it's just like a bird thing. You saw like there's like a bird character in Static Shock. She didn't terrify you, did she?
I don't know what to tell you. It's the animation style in this series in general is already a little uncanny valley. I don't know what to tell you. There's just something about that character design to me that is deeply unsettling. I don't know what to tell you, man. All right.
Okay.
But you know what wasn't a disappointment? You know what ended up being probably, for my money, one of the best things that Disney put out all year? Dream Productions.
Yeah, so Dream Productions was very impressive, especially this is made during a time Pixar was really on its heels, and it was impressive that they turned something like this out. This was really good.
Mm-hmm. I don't even really know what more we need to say about it. It's just all around really solid. We did a spoiler cast on it. I think it's the perfect length. I love that it's actual half hour. I mean, more like 20-minute episodes. I really, really love the character of Paula Persimmons. I really hope that she gets to be a supporting player in Inside Out 3 because I think she's got a lot of depth to her as a character. I think the original emotions were fleshed out just enough and had just enough presence, and they didn't wear out their welcome. I liked pretty much all of the new characters, especially Zenny. I think obviously this did a great job of furthering the world building of Inside Out. I mean, not much more to say. It's just a very, very solid season of television and a great extension of the Inside Out universe.
Yep. And again, importantly, it's not like I think our fear was cash in on Inside Out 2 success, and it wasn't that thing.
No, it wasn't. I think it would have been if they would have just like zeroed in on like, hey guys, you like anxiety? Well, here's more anxiety. But no, I actually think it was really smart for this to essentially be Inside Out 1.5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, Dragon, tell us about Superman and Lois season 4.
Yeah, so this marks the with the birth of Creature Commandos. This full on is the end of all the ongoing the DCW as it was called, all the CW DC shows. This is the last one. This was it. And I tell you, Tiki, it ended really strong. They really brought their game for the last season, knowing it was going to be the end. Honestly, look, Superman and Lois was a show overall that was good. The only issue I had with it is that the grown teenage son plots that's where I zoned out. I was like, oh god, I don't care about they should be kids, not teenagers. But aside from that, the show Tyler Hoechlin was a really good Superman. He was a really solid Superman. He respected a respectable job. Our Lois was admittedly cast maybe a little older than she should have been, but aside from that, she was a solid actress. The point being, they had a limited number of episodes, which have been same with all the CW shows, would have served them so much better. Like I think this maybe was 10 episodes, and they did a lot of really good work in 10 episodes. We cut out a lot of the unnecessary kind of side plots and subplots, which is always the kryptonite of these CW shows. Mm-hmm. This season adapted a little bit of Death of Superman and a little bit of All-Star Superman, and they did really, really well. I'm not joking. The Tiki, many people will back this claim up. You hold them side to side, they will tell you best Doomsday adaptation in live action we've ever gotten compared to BVS. Kicks the crap out of BVS. What they did with Doomsday here, very good, and on a TV budget, which is really impressive.
All right.
So again, just a lot of pathos, solid, unconventional Lex. I mean, our Lex Luthor was really good in what we did with him here because we introduced him in season 3, and we really got to do stuff with him here. We did a lot of bucket list stuff with Superman here, not Crypto because that's saved for the movie, but a lot of bucket list stuff here with Superman. I'll tell you this, Steve. The end might bring a tear to your eye. It's a very classy ending for Superman. It's like it was like one of those things where it's not like, and he goes on to do his stuff. This is like an ending for the character of Superman, which is like you never in a million years would have expected. It's like, wow, that's how we end. That's the end of his story there. That was really, it was really nice. It's the ending you'd want for a Superman story. Anyways, it ended well, is my point. It's just a rarity for the CW shows.
Yeah, for CW especially. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's a major win for them. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We actually had a good ending and a pretty good season.
Okay, next up, It's Always Sunny season 9, and I think I'm gonna do. Oh no, you're breaking it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so season 9, Dragon. Truly one of the best It's Always Sunny seasons that I've seen in a while. I think this is probably the best since like the golden age of like season 4 or 5. Like going down the line here, we got a lot of heavy hitters here. We got. I mean, starting off really strong with the gang broke D. Do you remember that one?
I believe so. I'm a little fuzzy on that one. I think I do.
Okay, it's the one where it's the one where D starts out really depressed, and the gang basically like they build her up with the stand-up comedy stuff, and it's basically like all an elaborate practical joke.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah. So that was great. That was a strong start. The gang desperately tries to win an award is really funny and meta, as kind of a commentary on how they never got nominated for an Emmy. Mac Day is awesome, Dragon. I love Country Mac. Sean William Scott is Country Mac. Awesome. I love the fate of Country Mac, Dragon. It's like they build him up. It's like this guy's so much better than our regular Mac, and then not so much. The Gang Saves the Day is a great kind of like anthology episode. That's the one where they're all in the convenience store and they're fantasizing about how they handle the robbery. I really like that structure. The gang gets quarantined. Very timely episode. Like that came out like 7 years before the actual pandemic, which is kind of trippy to see. And the thing that I remember the most about the gang gets quarantined is Dennis's ridiculous scheme of trying to get the Charlie D and Mac to sing that Boys to Men song in harmony.
Oh boy.
Come on, guys, we need to practice. And then just like the progression of how sick they all get in the quarantine room. Yeah, really fun stuff there. Very memorable episode. Let's see. Flowers for Charlie is really funny too. That's yeah, you remember that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the whole the parody of Flowers for Algernon where he's actually he's not getting
great. That was great.
Not getting smart at all.
I think the last couple episodes are just okay. I think the gang makes Lethal Weapon 6 it's fine. It's kind of forgettable in the grand scheme of things. And then honestly, the gang squashes their beefs. One of my least favorite elements of It's Always Sunny is I love some of the reoccurring characters. Like Cricket is obviously a gem. I hate the McFoyles. I hate the Ponderosas. And so just having an episode where it's just like, hey, we're just going to rehash all this shit again. I don't know. I thought it was, I do like the fact that the fire in the apartment is a long-term ramification that bleeds into season 10. I like that. But the actual episode I thought was kind of a weak sauce.
It was the ending of that episode you're right. The ending of the episode is really good though.
Yeah. But overall, like I said, there's at least half of these episodes are big heavy hitters, I think. Which I think is more of a batting average than the last few seasons have been.
Well, there you go.
All right. Okay. Let's see. Next up, Man on the Inside. This one I'll probably get around to if I have time.
I would really like you to watch this one. This was really good. Plus, it's really digestible too. I think it's like one season, 8 episodes.
They're like 30 episodes too, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like 30 minutes. Nice. Yeah. So Mike Schur did this. Mike Schur's the guy who did Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place, and Upload, which are 3 shows I'd also highly recommend. But yeah,
that's also on my list.
You would really like Upload.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is Ted Danson's new show, Ted Danson's new Netflix show, and I'm head over heels for it. I'm not gonna oversell it here, but I love this show. The opening will get you, man. The opening is like
it definitely has like the premise has like it's only murders in the building style hook to it. I think
little bit, yeah, and it kind of like Only Murders in the Building. It does have that pathos, but right from the get go, you have like Ted Danson has a scene at the very opening in episode 1 that already it's just the way it's framed and the way they shoot it and everything is just really it's like. you feel for this guy, and it's like we're expanding upon all the potential that we saw in like a resurgence in Ted Danson in The Good Place, which he was ready to play. Really fun, really wonderfully layered ultimately, and there's like a reveal with his character. It's really good, and then we kind of go from there in The Good Place. It's like, what if we kind of took that character, like kind of the potential of what we've seen him do there, and kind of start with that in like a condensed 8-episode format. And it's like it's look, this is a lot of cute comfort comedy to be had here. This is absolutely a comfort show in all the meanings of the word, but it's nice though. It's basically he gets recruited to spy on people at a retirement home. So it's kind of like Carl Fredricksen in Spies Like Us almost. So kind of like it's
right.
Apparently it's very much. I think it adapts. I think you may have heard of this movie. I think a while ago it was like I forget if it actually might have gotten an Oscar nomination. There's this movie called The Mole or The Mole Agent. That ring any bells? It's a foreign
kind
film.
of vaguely, yeah.
So this is kind of based off that book, I guess. It's based off The Mole Agent, which then got turned into a movie. They got an award to claim and everything. So it's kind of a similar premise. So it's kind of an older gentleman in kind of retirement community, I guess. We got a great cast, some carryovers. A big one being Stephanie Beatrix. She's in this. I'm enamored with her in this. She plays I love her character and everything we go through with her character in that show. Sally Struthers from All in the Family. She has a little role, and this is one of the retirees. It's pretty nice. I got to tell you this though, the MVP in terms of this guy should get an Emmy because this guy's a character actor. You've seen him in things like I remember from Tower Heist, but this guy plays a supporting character, and he stole the show. Stephen McKinley Henderson. He plays Calbert.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah.
So he befriends Ted Danson's character in the show, and it's this beautiful friendship between them that just happens. And I remember all these old folks that we see here, and we play them very realistically in kind of naturally funny ways, but also like these are old people in a retirement home, which can be their darkest hours of their lives, in terms of like them having to be here. And, we see this Ted Danson here to make this positive difference and kind of brings excitement into their lives. And, it's just, it's very charming. It's very cozy. It hits you in the feels in places. And, it's just, there are hearty laughs here and there. And you just, it's been renewed for a second season. I don't know if it has season 2 potential. All I know is I really like the show. I think in a bottle it works really well. We'll see how season 2 goes. And it really feels like Ted Danson needed this, especially with curb ending. He really needed something like this. And this was this did not disappoint. I had a really good time with it. Also, there's a It's Always Sunny alumni in this. Mary Elizabeth Ellis, she is in this.
Oh, nice.
She plays his daughter in this.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, speaking of Always Sunny, season 10. I don't think this one's quite as solid as season 9 overall. It's still got some bangers though.
Yeah.
The gang. I know which one you're excited to.
Yeah.
We'll build to it.
All right.
The Gang Beats Boggs. Really fun. That's the one where they're all drinking on the plane.
Yep.
And again, I really like how the show's like continuing to find ways to mix up the formula. I think that's one of the things the season excels at. The gang group dates just once again reaffirms the fact that Dennis is the fucking funniest character on this show. Just how obsessed he gets over the 1-star thing. I can't get enough of like Dennis is like the misogynistic psychopath. It's wonderful. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Psycho Pete Returns, one of my least favorite episodes of the whole series. I think the stuff with Cricket is fun. How he comes back, his face is all fucked up and burned. That's fun. But I think It's Always Sunny. Like some of the humor in regards to like the mentally disabled and mental health is a little outdated to say the least. And I think this episode definitely speaks to that.
It was also coming from an idiot, though, so that's kind of the
right.
point, though. You can't take it that at face value.
But Charlie worked, Dragon. Charlie
yes.
worked. After all the hype, I went into this episode.
My favorite episode.
I got to tell you, Dragon, I thought it was just okay. I thought it was all right. I wasn't really blown away by it. No, I'm kidding. It was fucking fantastic.
Oh, thank goodness. So it lived up to the hype, then.
Did I have you going there for a second?
For a moment, yes, you did kind of like.
No, it's awesome. And I've got to assume this is a parody of Birdman,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's, oh my God, it's amazing. I love it. And one of the things that you and Jacob, I believe, kind of teased me about with the later seasons of It's Always Sunny is that Charlie is going to be like more competent and relevant than he was in the earlier seasons. And I think this is a great kind of like turning point for his character in that regard.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Some of the others, the Gang Spies like US, I think is just okay. The Gang Misses the Boat, I think is fine for the most part. I do like Frank joining up with the new gang, and I really love Dennis with his attempts to sell the Range Rover and getting so offended when people question the fact that it's literally in the water. I am a golden god! Let's see. Matt kills his dad, I think is just okay. Once again, I feel that kind of gets dragged down by the Bill Ponderosa plot line. It's like, oh, Bill Ponderosa is going to drink himself to death, and they're going to write out a life insurance policy. Sure. I don't know, man. I'm over the Ponderosas. I'm over the McFoibles. They're easily my least favorite.
Well, I mean, McPoyle.
McFoyle?
No. P, like McPoyle.
McPoyle. Okay.
By the way, did you get the Frank POV episode this season?
The Frank retires?
No. It's like literally the whole episode is is like a POV shot from Frank's POV.
No.
Like, okay, that's a really good one too. That's on level with Charlie work. It's really good.
The gang goes on family fight. Goddamn.
Oh yeah.
Iconic. I love that episode. Keegan Michael Key is the Steve Harvey stand-in is just inspired casting.
Oh yeah.
I just love how like as the episode progresses, it's like you can tell this guy like there's this perfectly nice television friendly black family, and then there's these assholes. Just the fact that Charlie is always getting like the 1 point answers. And then Dennis just freaking out about Dennis, I think in this season really, really shines. I think that this season by and large is kind of the Dennis season. Let's see. Frank retires, I honestly thought was a little bit repetitive just because it was just kind of like a lot of back and forth. Like, I'm going to be the owner. No, I'm going to be the owner. I'm going to backstab you. Blah, blah, blah. Mac playing the middleman was kind of funny at first. I think that joke kind of really ran itself into the ground. And so basically kind of like season 9, I think the finale is one of the weaker episodes. Not as bad as Psycho Pete Returns. Not as bad as that, but Ass Kickers United, Mac and Charlie join a cult. There's some fun stuff in there. I just think that there's a little bit too much going on. And honestly, at this point in the series, I feel like Mac has kind of become the most problematic of the lead characters, just because I know that he's going to come out as gay soon. And obviously they're doing a lot of gay jokes. And I'm not saying like, oh, shame on the show for being homophobic or whatever. No, I'm not saying that. But like, I don't know, man. I just feel like the way that they're treating Mac, especially this season, is mean-spirited in a way that I was kind of worried the Fat Mac season was going to be. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like, his character is just kind of more pathetic than funny at this point, and I don't know. And from some stuff that I've heard about him after he comes out, it's like basically that he just gets obsessed with Dennis. I don't know, man. I kind of not looking forward to Matt going. I'm looking forward to certain elements of that. I'm definitely looking forward to the actual like coming out part of it, but I don't know, man. I think right now it's pretty clear that Mac is kind of the weak link in the gang as far as the comedy goes. Like, I feel like all 5 of the other ones are so ahead of him as far as just like laughs per minute, and he's kind of just the butt of the joke, which I think is unfortunate. So yeah, not a great ending. Again, not the worst episode of the season, but just not a great ending. I kind of feel like It's Always Sunny hasn't had like a great finale in a while. I honestly don't really feel like It's Always Sunny does finales. Like the Nightman Cometh, that was a great finale. That was the finale of season 4. That was awesome. I don't really think the show has had as good of a finale since then. The Christmas episode was the finale. The season 5 that was good. That was solid. That wasn't bad at all. But it's also not one of like the most memorable episodes of the show or anything. And I think The Nightman Cometh, absolutely, I would put in my top 10 of the show. I would be down to rank It's Always Sunny episodes once I'm through with the show, by the way, Dragon. I know that would be a big endeavor, but I'd be down to try it. Anyways. All right, so yeah, that's my take on It's Always Sunny season 10. I'm already a couple episodes the way through season 11, so we'll see how it goes. At this point, I will say, like, I'm kind of proud of myself that I've it's come at the cost of my of me catching up with Curb. It definitely, like, Curb is kind of the sacrificial. I will get back to Curb eventually.
Promises.
But I am kind of proud of myself, the fact that I committed to watching through It's Always Sunny, and at this point, I think I'm going to make it. I've only got a few more seasons to actually catch up. I actually think I'm probably going to do it before season 17 drops, and I'm proud of that. Small victories, right?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so Dragon, you had some fun. Okay, I just want to paraphrase this for everyone. I just want to, like, put some setup here. Dragon gave me a list, and on that list, I'm sorry, Dragon, I'm going to rib you a little bit here. It doesn't say Girls Gone Wild, The Untold Story, or whatever the hell this documentary is called. It just says Girls Gone Wild. And Dragon, you can imagine my reaction when I read that. I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, so I saw that, and that's when I realized.
Desperate to get another entry on his team. It's like, fuck it, Girls Gone Wild, let's go.
Yeah, so I realized that mistake, and that's when I sent the revised version.
No, it's all good.
I had the shorthanded. I didn't know. I forgot what the full name was because they all had
right.
Anyway.
I just, like, could you imagine if someone actually tried to pass off Girls Gone Wild in their, like, movie journal? The cinematography was amazing. Anyways, go ahead. I'm genuinely kind of interested in this, so go ahead.
Well, again, did I? Hold on a second. I think I had something else in the revised version above that, but
oh, my bad. I might be jumping back and forth between the two versions.
Yeah, that's the thing. Man.
No, it's after It's Always Sunny season 10.
What are you talking about? I have like. You sure it doesn't say Shrinking season 2? You don't see that above?
What now?
You don't see Shrinking season 2 there instead.
Shrinking season 2 is the last TV show on the list.
Well, that's the thing. That you're looking at the
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Under.
I assure you, I'm not.
I'm assuring you are. You're looking at the first one.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Anyway.
Okay. Shrinking season 2. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah.
Don't blame me. Blame Google's Gmail's, like, confusing ass layout.
All right. Anyway, yeah. So Shrinking season 2 is, of course, the therapy show by Jason Segel and the Ted Lasso crew. I love the first season, and I continue.
One of those Apple shows I would love to watch if I actually had access to it.
Well, eventually, like Ted Lasso did come out on Blu-ray, so eventually this is probably going to get the same treatment. So I mean, it's something to consider.
Yeah, I don't have the TV, and I don't.
Yeah, I forgot. You're all streaming. You're all Anyway, Hope Stash there. Regardless, I love the show. Season 2. I'll admit the one hang up I have with season 2 is that there was a little bit of a bump in the road with episode 2 of season 2, where that was like we had like Jimmy and the Gabby characters. They had a falling out, and it felt kind of like that was like the forced drama. It's like, I mean, I get what we're kind of doing there. It is part of like a healing process thing where they have they have a friends with benefits kind of relationship, and it feels like Jimmy was kind of abusing that a little bit, and he did have to get set straight. But I hate the whole thing where it's I spent like an episode or two where Gabby's very much anti Jimmy. It just feels like it's getting in the way of her other stories. But anyway. It's a small quibble. It doesn't really get in the way. It's not a bad thing, but it just feels like it's it's like, well, why we're a better show than this, guys. Anyway, so but with that said though, the whole point of season 2 And all the other stories kind of fall in line with this. It's persevering through complication. That's what the theme of season 2 is, where we end on a very literal cliffhanger on season 1 in an awesome way. There's a literal cliffhanger. And we work our way back from that. Like, wow, something really shocking has happened, and basically from Jimmy having his unconventional therapy method, like kind of basically really involving himself in the patient's lives when you really shouldn't be doing that. But it has been getting good results. But then something bad happens. So what's Jimmy going to do? Well, he's gonna keep doing what he's doing, but he is very much on notice of like, yeah, things could go really bad if I don't really look within myself or what I'm doing wrong. So it's admirable in a way that the show, there are no band-aid solutions in this show. Really, therapy really takes work, and that's what the show reflects. They throw some big curveballs at you this season. Like Sean, there's a moment where Sean and his father, and this shows like these are the guys that made Ted Lasso. Kind of moments where Sean and his father. Basically, his father, I don't want to bore you with all the details. Point being, Sean's father had like issues, and they kind of start a food truck together, seemingly. You'd think Band-Aid solution. They're past their issues. They're fine now. And like the moment he kind of opens up to his father then shuts him down, saying basically, it's a whole like true to life thing where fathers don't always believe in the merits of therapy, and they will say, oh, there's the therapist blaming the father again. It's a heart-wrenching moment, and like, oh, it's like you feel so bad for this poor kid. Harrison Ford continues.
I bet it's almost kind of like a Willy Wonka and Christopher Lee kind of dynamic in the show, a little bit.
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe in that specific case, maybe. Yeah, it's possible. Harrison Ford, he's always a standout. He was a real standout this season.
Harrison Ford is literally the only reason I'm seeing the new Captain America in theaters.
Well, he's the reason you should somehow look into this show, because he's really good. It's the first time Harrison Ford's done television, I think, and it's a big deal. And he's basically he plays another therapist who's a coworker of the Jason Segel character, and he's his mentor, and he's also kind of his therapist too. And basically, he has Parkinson's, and we set that up in the first season. This season, his Parkinson's are getting to the point where medication's not, the effectiveness is wearing off. So he's dealing with the reality of, the affliction is really starting to get to him. Mm-hmm. And what's really moving about the performance is that Harrison Ford, like this icon, basically the way we play him in the shows, everyone defers to Paul, the therapist. Everyone loves Paul, the therapist. And this icon of respectability is in fear and a vulnerability which we've never seen Harrison Ford really deal with. And that's the grabber there. Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso, he was also one of the creatives on the show. He plays a character in the show, a very pivotal character. He plays the drunk driver that killed Jason Segel's wife in this show, and we have to deal with him this season. He's coming face to face with the man that upended by accident, but he upended his whole life and everything, and he's got to deal with that. And there's some gobsmacking moments in conjunction with that in this season. So again, the Apple TV seems to be at its best with Ted Lasso and Shrinking, and this is again just another success for them there.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Next up, we've got Wizards of Baking. I don't have a lot to say about this, Dragon. This was my comfort show the day that the kidney stones, they came on hard, but they also, like, I was able to pass them rather quickly, thank God. But this was my comfort food when I was dealing with that, and I think it did a really effective job. So this is absolutely not your cup of tea at all, but it's basically a competitive baking show. Set on the Warner Brothers studio lot in London, where they have all the Harry Potter sets. Every episode is on a different Harry Potter set and themed to a different Harry Potter location. So, like, episode 1, you have Platform 9 3/4. Episode 2, you have Diagon Alley, so on and so forth. And the show is hosted by James and Oliver Phelps, who played the Weasley twins, Fred and George, in the Harry Potter movies. They are delightful little rapscallions who add a lot of humor and levity to the show. I think some of the actual baking sculptures and creations and whatnot are very, very impressive. I think some of the judging decisions in the show are a little bit bullshit, but whatever. I had a good time with this, man. This show did exactly what I set out and needed it to do, which was to distract me from the terrible pain happening in my nether regions, and it did a good job of that. Can't ask for more than that, right?
Nope, no, you can't. Plus, like the one food you can't have too.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there was a lot of cake on the bacon thing, right?
You have no idea how hungry this show made me for cake, Dragon.
Yeah.
You know, saving grace with that is that literally every time they had something that looked delicious, they'd lay out the ingredients. They'd be like, and this also has some hazelnut or some walnut or some almond. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't have it. That's fine then. No problem. I don't hate myself for not being able to eat it right now.
Yeah. Have I told you about, have I ever told you about the show on YouTube that's People versus Food?
I think you have. It's like it sounds like kind of a Hot Wings style thing.
Well, right? No, it's not Hot Ones. No, it's not Hot Ones. This is they make it. It's kind of like binging with Babish. It's kind of like that. You know binging with Babish, right?
Yeah, that dude's gotten into some controversy.
Okay, well, the point being, I'm just saying in terms of like what it's kind of what he does in terms of he creates the food of the animated food that we go nuts for in real life. People versus Food does the same thing, but the challenge is it's food that looks so good and so tantalizing. If you eat it, then you incur a penalty at the very end because
okay, I gotta see.
And again, Tiki, they create all the cartoon foods all.
If I watch that, can I count it for Memoirs?
No.
Are you sure? Fuck you.
Hey.
Why?
Well, because it's too numerous and it doesn't have an ending.
Fine. All right. I'm sorry.
It's a little bit. That really hurts.
Very hostile there.
Anyway,
again with TV, with Memoirs, our whole hang-up is like, Creature Commandos is about to end in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew, we're about to get our penultimate episode for that. But they're going to be in fucking January because fuck you, it's January. Where there's no movies in theaters.
All
right. Little Blue, you're allergic to walnuts. I'm allergic to all nuts. It doesn't matter. Everyone down the line can't eat it, can't do it. I'm not like deathly allergic to it. Like I wouldn't need an EpiPen if I were to accidentally swallow nuts, but like my mouth will get swollen and it will ruin my meal.
The only nuts he's immune to are the peanuts, as in the wonderful Charles M. Schultz characters.
That and the peanut butter filling in Reese's peanut butter cups, which goes to show how artificial that shit is.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can actually eat that, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway.
Okay, so, Girls Gone Wild, Dragon. Hell yeah.
Okay, the untold story.
Boobies.
You joke about that, Tiki, but the subject matter.
I know.
So you're gonna feel really bad in about 2 seconds, but yeah. So this is Girls Gone Wild, the untold story.
Can I just give some context for my relationship with Girls Gone Wild?
I have a bad feeling about it, but go on.
No. Dragon, I'm asexual, okay? I'm not going to be jacking off to girls.
Well, I know now, but then, though, I don't know about the younger.
Then I didn't know I was asexual, but I knew that kind of stuff did not turn me on. Girls Gone Wild, along with those weird-ass, like, you remember the Bob ads with Enzyme, right?
No, I don't remember the Bob ads with Enzyme.
This is Bob. He's the perfect specimen of a gentleman. You don't remember Bob, really?
Not offhand, no. I don't. If I saw Bob, I probably would remember, but I can't, not auditorily, but no.
Okay. Those two were like the bane of my existence when I was a kid/teenager and wanted to sneak watch South Park after my parents went to bed. Because it's like, if my parents caught me watching South Park, it wouldn't be that bad. It'd basically just be like a go to bed. But man, if they in those Girls Gone Wild commercials, they'd last like the entire commercial break, and they would be frequent, like at least twice per episode. If my parents caught me watching that shit, Dragon, entirely different story. I fucking hated the fact that those commercials even existed. All right.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
You know, it's funny. I love the fact there is a Girls Gone Wild joke in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so Girls Gone Wild, the untold story. See, you got to say it really serious just to show the like Girls Gone Wild, the untold story.
So,
Yeah, so this is a little docuseries on. I was really hoping it was going to be a movie I could have added to Memoirs, but it ended up. That's the thing with Peacock. All the things that look potentially like movies, they're always like 3-part series.
Mhm.
Anyway, so this is interesting. They sat down with Joe Francis, the man himself. Now they didn't film him, but they took the guy is so weird, and that's the whole point here is the fact that he allowed like a warts and all like interview. Like she could have asked him anything, and she can take all the pictures she wanted, but they couldn't film him.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. The way it's structured, you have.
And also very contradictory considering his entire career trajectory.
And that's the point. They get into that. So that's the thing. Where Joe Francis, again, that's the interesting framing device of like, so he's like responding to everything. He's literally framing the narrative in his own words, as she's like asking about these things. And we just have these really creepy like pictures of just him like kind of popping up and everything. And it's basically you learn like this guy, he's a real piece of work, and that's really what he's doing all this because he's a real piece of work. He amassed so much power and ego, by basically watching girls take their tops off. And it just, again, I remember I watched like a Need True Hollywood story on the Girls Gone Wild thing of Joe Francis, I think one time in the past. So that's what the passing familiarity with like Joe Francis, the name and everything is. And it really adds context, especially in the world today, where we show that how the Girls Gone Wild, the girls from Girls Gone Wild, it really hurt a lot of women. It really did. Like they get into like the stories of like they, if like especially if they were identified or if they, God forbid, they signed the waiver or something, the faces were shown, they were on those tapes, and it was like a whole nightmare situation for them. And then of course there's the whole like age factor. It kind of fits in like not everyone, but sometimes they would that's the thing. Not everyone, but still though. And the fact that he was able to skirt by all of that. And there's
honestly, I think even as a kid, I kind of had like a sixth sense about that shit.
Yeah. Plus, here's the creepiest thing. This is gonna sound weird, but I think it's really interesting. Is the fact that there's like sections of they would show like here's the in quotes they would show footage. Obviously, it's all censored, but that's the fact. That's what I'm getting. Is that it's all censored, and they would get into this thing where you would hear the audio, and it would just be all the disturbing sexual like instructions off camera. Hey girls, try this, and the fact that it's pixelated and the acts that are going on are so probably kind of sexual and deplorable that. It's the whole screen gets pixelated in flesh, but it's all it's like it's like a pixelated like art piece practically in terms of it. But again, there's something disturbing about it. It's the fact that oh man, the whole thing's pixelated. What is going on?
Right, yeah,
like something like that. So that was the depiction of everything here I found was really interesting. They have like the sheriff's department. I think Francis was located in Florida. I forget if this guy was in Florida or not. The point being, you had this sheriff who's basically his life's mission, and the fact is they almost had Joe Francis one time, but again they were so eager to get him, they kind of botched the case, and it was kind of a real shame because the whole town just hated this guy because he was a creep that they couldn't nail.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I just really you watch this thing, you're gonna realize I knew so little about Joe Francis, and it was really an eye-opening experience just seeing oh man, is how just the rich got richer in this case,
Right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Next up. Oh no. Go ahead. You got two more.
Right. Okay. So real quick. Cold Case. More cheery watches. Cold Case. Who killed John Benet Ramsey?
I'm just gonna say this at this point. Like morally, I'm kind of over these kind of documentaries. It's why I didn't get into the Menendez brothers and the John Benet Ramsey thing. Like I was a kid when that happened, so it actually does interest me, but I can't morally justify watching it.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest. I think subconsciously, I feel compelled to check the John Benet Ramsey because again, it's the fact that it is like the unsolved case. It's the fact that it's like, and you're always wondering after all these years, are we really close to solving it or not? And here's honestly, what really interested me about it, Tiki, was this. The fact that like a year or so ago, maybe like 2 years ago, probably, they did this thing called Casting John Benet Ramsey, which was done as a feature.
God, I remember that. That was some creepy pedo bullshit.
And the thing is, well, I don't know if we're thinking of the same thing. I mean, it was creepy, but it was
I got some bad vibes from that whole project, Dragon. That's all I'm gonna say, right?
Fair point. Well, regardless,
I just think the inherent premise of that project was flawed to say the least.
Well, you're okay, and that I didn't really think, but that way now you bring it up though. It's like, yeah, I guess that was really problematic though in terms of their casting. But point being, the thing there with casting John Ramsey, the big takeaway I had from it that going into this is really interesting. The main reason I wanted to is that they actually had they nailed down a theory there that did sound very, very plausible in a very chilling way at the very end. So it was kind of like it was like the one time you get a John Benet Ramsey that does seemingly have an ending, which was the big takeaway I had there. So going into this, I was wondering, well, we kind of have an ending there. What new things do we have to bring to this here? So I watched it, and again, it's always it's always the dark unsolved mystery that we keep revisiting with John Benet Ramsey. And I want to be clear, I too am getting to the point where it's like it feels like Netflix is very much cashing in on tragedy a lot with these lately. The fact that we keep revisiting them, keep doing them, and
what was that one that American Nightmare, right? The one where they use the basically like real found footage.
Yeah, that was good.
That was really good. Like that.
So that's what I'm saying. You
actually sign off on.
So here's the thing. We seem to be, you and I seem to, I think, respond best to when we do like the true crime stuff that either doesn't have to do with like strictly murder, or it is the stuff that is presented in a very interesting way that isn't like the same tragic story that we've told.
Right. I mean, that's the key there is I think it just needs to be an interesting take. Like it needs to be presented in an interesting way. I mean, even something like Dahmer, as problematic as that show was, it was done in an interesting way.
Yeah. But then we did the cash in of like, okay, so then we're going to do the audio tapes of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right. And then they just went nuts with Dahmer, just like they went nuts with the Menendez brothers.
Yeah. So anyway, so here's what's interesting about this one. This one, I think you'd enjoy a lot more than casting John Benet Ramsey, to say the least. But
I would hope so.
this was more. This is interesting. This is more in defense of the parents. This was more in like John Ramsey is actually the surviving Ramsey parent is actually in this, so he actually talks about things a little bit here, and not in a way where he's trying to cash in, but he's like responding to like all of the things over the years people have said about him and his family, and we get into the whole thing that John Benet Ramsey, there was a very botched investigation. The parents were under scrutiny, and years later, the big revelations we have here is like years later, there's a pedophile whack job who took credit for what happened to John Benet Ramsey. But again, he's so unreliable, you don't know if he's just making it up or not. And then we have honestly the prevailing theory that casting John Benet brought up that we kind of discount here, but I still am unsure about. The fact that the son might have done it. The son might have done it by accident.
That's a theory I've always kind of heard floating around. Honestly,
I've kind of subscribed to it, but again, it doesn't explain all the creepy stuff that was done to John Benet, kind of possibly during or post-mortem. But still, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the one hole in that for me. But regardless, though, it's just at the end of the day, though, it's just a story without a satisfying ending, which just kind of it just depresses everyone, which just feels like, hey, this happened around Christmas. Let's put it out around Christmas time, because it's timeless. Not even like a major anniversary. It's going to put it out just to make everyone sad because we want to try and clear the Ramsey's name, but the damage has already been done. Nothing's going to fix that. Nothing's going to ring that bell.
Sure.
Anyway, so just honestly, I was having a sad boy Christmas, and there was my sad boy watch.
God. All right.
Thankfully, Christmas went well. But I'm just saying, though, it has not been 2024 was not a swell year.
Yeah, 2024 was good for me until the very end, and then it kind of kicked my ass right at the end.
Basically, October onward is when things kind of soured for me. But yeah.
All right.
Okay, lastly, sorry, this one's going to go real quick. Blue Blood season 14. Finale. I bring it up because usually I skip Blue Bloods in terms of our coverage, but I brought it up in this case because it was the ending of the whole show. They finally ended. The iconic cop show is going to come to an end. Opposite. I mean, it's pretty much the opposite of Superman and Lois to a degree. Where
not good.
Well, no, sorry. Not that it wasn't good, but not in the sense that they made the most out of their runtime, their episodes. It was very much more of the same. Like, guys, you had a real opportunity here, And there were a few moments of where we addressed the finality. You felt the finality, but they broke up the season in 2 parts already, which is that's like how they do the seasons anyway, like on television, where you have you go on Christmas break and you come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you this though: the last episode, they really did make the last episode count, and that's I think it had it's kind of a few episodes kind of felt like, what do we say about these characters at the end? And then the grand finale was like, okay, we had a really good ending for the show, and we left them all in a pretty decent place, and it did feel kind of like a worthwhile ending, and it felt like something big was happening. So, I think we tied it all together at the very end. But Blue Bloods was a show where it was like Blue Bloods is like the procedural. Like after post like Law and Order was the original procedural, then Blue Bloods became kind of like the more like the less depressing procedural.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
All right. Okay, and finally we are on Catch Up. 1 second. All right. Okay, Memoir of a Snail. Have you heard anything about this?
I saw you listed, and I looked into it a little bit. So is this was it a stop motion movie about a snail kid?
It is a stop motion movie about a woman who uses her hyperfixation of snails as a way to cope with her childhood trauma.
Okay.
It's excellent, Dragon. It's truly excellent. I think it's probably the best animated movie of the year for me personally. Sarah Snook from Succession plays the lead character, which is mostly narration. Like, she narrates the whole thing, and she does a wonderful job. The thing that I think this movie does so well is that it's a very sad story. There's definitely a lot of heartbreak, a lot of ups and downs in the story, but there's two things that really elevate it, though, from being just misery porn, which is kind of what I was worried it was going to be when I first heard about it. It actually does keep a tone of lightheartedness throughout. It's one of those projects that kind of deftly blends tragedy and comedy in a really natural way. Like in real life, in the midst of tragedy, there is going to be lighthearted moments, and this, I think, really captures that. And then also, without spoilers, it has a super cathartic ending. Like, the ending is just like, it literally feels like the most delicious, soothing medicine after some of the trauma that you experience earlier in the movie. I don't really want to say much more about it. I think the movie has one of the best depictions of hoarding that I've ever seen in a movie, especially for stop motion. I think like the production design through the stop motion sets do like an excellent job, where the movie, like, there's other locations to be sure, but by and large it kind of takes place in the living room of one house for like a good chunk of the runtime. And that living room is kind of like where the main character like hoards basically anything snail related, because she's got this snail hyperfixation that's, like I said, she's kind of using as a coping mechanism for her childhood trauma. And just the world that this movie builds just out of that one room and all the little details of it is I've never seen anything like it in stop motion before. It's truly like next level, like Leica style attention to detail in the stop motion there. I really think you owe it to yourself to check this one out if you're at all a stop motion guy, because I think it's really kind of at the top of its game, and I'm going to be rooting for it pretty hard for best animated film. I mean, honestly, I like this better than Flow, which I know Peregrine would disagree with, but Flow's great too, but I think this was slightly better. This was definitely a highlight for me for sure. All right, yeah, big recommend there. All right, then I guess you and I technically both watched Hot Frosty. I did not watch Hot Frosty in December. I watched like the first 5 minutes just to affirm, like, yep, this definitely has Night Before Christmas upside to it. But
Night with a K.
Right. But I don't know what else is there to say with Hot Frosty that hasn't already been said. You know what I really like about Hot Frosty, and I really appreciate about it, is that yes, the dude playing him is attractive, but I think the thing that really warms people to him in the movie is the fact that he's just an all-around, just super nice, lovable, affable guy. And honestly, like, the looks do play a part of it, but it's not the whole thing. And it really does go to show, like, yeah, you have to have that personality. You can't just be this Adonis snowman like we see at the beginning, I think that that Lacey Chabert is that how you say her last name? Chabert?
Yeah, Chabert.
Yay, I got it right.
Yeah, you did. Look at you. Look, you got it right.
I think she's great as a romantic lead. I actually think she's got a little bit more. I think the two leads have more chemistry with each other than the Night Before Christmas duo, which might be controversial. The Night Before Christmas duo, like, they're great, but I feel like a lot of their charm just comes from some of the memes, the magic bean. Like, there's no moment in this movie as funny as I found the magic bean. Which is just fucking ridiculous. And I literally, like, once a week, I will just think about that line and just crack up to myself.
But I just love. Here's what I like to imagine. Tiki. I like to imagine that she says, I found the magic bee, and then we have off to the side, her acting coach Vera Farmiga's like jumping up and down. Yes, you did it! Look at you!
Yes. But no, I think what it lacks in, like, just a big, like, what the hell, that's like that's a crazy line delivery. I think it makes up for, like, I think this movie genuinely has, like, a lot more heart than The Night Before Christmas does. You know what I mean? I actually think it's a pretty solid Christmas movie in that regard.
Well, we did kind of murder the lead character too, so.
True.
We brought him back, but still, he was murdered rather unlawfully by law enforcement.
That's true.
Anyway, so look, I love Frosty the Snowman as much as I do, and this was a delightful little, again, the Hallmark adjacent, I'd like to call it, the Hallmark adjacent Netflix holiday film. And
Netflix is doing Hallmark better than Hallmark. Let's just
agreed. Agreed, absolutely.
Yeah.
But so I admit the only gripe I have the movie is we could have polished the sheriff stuff just a bit, just a wee bit.
Yeah, the sheriff stuff is silly. I'll admit that.
But look, it's very cute, it's very harmless, and it's in the vein of Night Before Christmas, which is kind of what we wanted. It was very nice, very seasonal. And what's funny though, Tiki, I swear to God, I don't know if you caught this like going through Netflix. There was a section. There's like a section. I don't know if it's still there. There's a section around the holidays that we watch it for the plot, honest, or something like that.
And
it was like all like basically there's Hot Frosty. There was like all the hunky kind of like lead character guy movies that they had. Like I think Magic Mike might have been there too. I don't know. There was like a whole section of that, and also there was like Chad Michael Murray had a movie kind of in the vein of Hot Frosty, where it was like, okay, so we have a kind of a hunky Chad Michael Murray character in a Christmas movie.
Right.
Just funny to me, but yeah.
Okay, A Different Man, the movie that won Sebastian Stan his Golden Globe.
The trailer looked interesting on this one, so tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's about Sebastian Stan plays an actor. He starts out with the skin condition, with probably going to butcher this, but neurofibromatosis, which is basically not the mask, but mask. You know what I mean?
Wait, is this like the Elephant Man disease?
Yeah, essentially, yes, yeah.
Did we cast the other guy as him in the early years, or does he just befriend him in the movie?
He befriends him in the movie.
Okay, so he had a condition similar to that guy, though.
And then the thing is, about like at the end of the first act, he undergoes this this treatment, this experimental treatment that essentially turns him into Sebastian Stan.
Is Sebastian Stan in makeup in the beginning of the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Where I think the performance really shines with Sebastian Stan is that even after he looks like Sebastian Stan, Dragon, the man is just so goddamn uncomfortable in his own skin in a really raw, like visceral kind of way that I can really relate to. And then Adam Pearson, the actor who actually has the condition, he's popped up in a couple things. He popped up in
Under the Skin.
Yeah, Under the Skin. Yeah, that's his most famous.
That was the big thing he did.
Yeah. But the thing with that guy is that he's got the condition, but he is everything personality-wise that Sebastian Stan's character wants to be. And this guy is so nice to Sebastian Stan. And Sebastian Stan fucking hates him. But he's so nice to him, so it's this weird push and pull dynamic. You need to see this if you get a chance.
I mean, look, I'm definitely sold on it. It's just a matter of when I'm able to watch it.
Right. The one thing I will say is that the two of them there's like a romantic interest that's kind of in the middle of the two of them. She's awful. She's truly like, I think the character is written to be awful. The character is written to be super promiscuous and like will literally sleep with anyone and drop anyone at the drop of a dime. And that's her character, but it is not a likable character. It is not a pleasant character to spend time with. I don't like her presence in the movie, but all the scenes with Adam Pearson and Sebastian Stan just interacting off each other, it's so fucking good. It's delicious. And like I said, Sebastian Stan just radiates that kind of like socially awkward, like hyper aware sense of just hating who you are, like, you know, just the totally being utterly uncomfortable in your own skin. I mean, it's a truly phenomenal performance, and I'm really stoked that he got the Golden Globe.
Everyone underestimates Sebastian Stan. You know, he's.
Really I haven't underestimated Sebastian Stan since I, Tonya.
That's what I'm saying. Because you have like Tanya, you got the Winter Soldier, you got, you know, you have Tommy Lee from Ham and Tommy. You know, that's what I'm saying. The man, and also again, though I haven't seen it yet, but you know, maybe if I ever do, you know, The Apprentice, you got that. I'm sure he's good in it.
He's good. It's not a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I think Jeremy Strong kind of overshadows him performance-wise, but he's still good.
That's what I'm saying. My point is with his performance, the man's a chameleon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, big recommend on A Different Man. I think you'd really dig it. Okay, mystery movie, Dragon. Ooh, it's a mystery I'll never guess.
Ezra.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right.
I didn't say it was a good mystery.
Oh, this movie was so fucking in one ear, out the other for me. I'm sorry. I know that I should like it more than I do, given the subject matter, but man, for the subject matter, it's about the most trite, boring way they could have possibly done it. But go ahead. Maybe you liked it more than I did.
So, you know, I watched it on a whim, you know, because I like De Niro and I love Bobby Cannavale.
I mean, Bobby Cannavale's great. Yeah, he's the reason I saw it in theaters.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, not seeing it in theaters, just seeing it kind of like, you know, on demand. Yeah, it was. I thought it was solid enough. You know, it's not. Here's the thing, I'm not compelled to go back to it. I'm not. But I like that. So Tony Goldwyn, who was in the movie, he directed it. So Tarzan himself, you know, you know, he plays the. So he plays the lawyer. Basically, I forget, I guess her boyfriend, the lawyer boyfriend or lawyer fiance, that guy.
Right.
And he's also the director of the film. And here's the thing: I appreciate the messiness of the situation. You know, showing, you know, the perennial struggles to the neurodivergent. I guess I thought that was kind of interesting. Kind of
I still just outwardly reject the mere premise of what his character is trying to. I think it's so offensive.
Well, it's not a well thought out plan, Tiki. It clearly was wrong minded. And they go over
that thought out plan, but I also just think it's a shit message.
Well, the message, though, okay, admittedly, okay, look, so it is a mess. We show it's a messy situation. We also show that she didn't really listen to what that kid said in that moment, though. Which that's what I'm saying. Like she brought misinformation to the table there, then forced that kid into that situation.
Right.
Now, ultimately. Should the kid act? They should. You know, ultimately, the kid's probably going to end up there anyway, which we do see by the end of the movie. So that's true.
Yeah, and but having a little brother that is literally currently going through the exact same situation, Dragon, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's for the best, and it's like I just outwardly reject a movie that would like show like the rehabilitation of a severely autistic child. It's like, oh, the bad doctors, the institution.
But Diggy, we're seeing him come
just outright.
But we're seeing him come to that line of thinking though with all he goes through in the movie. So he's not really like he's not bumping up against it by the end.
That it's just a problematic premise. It's just a problematic starting point.
Anyway, point being, flawed character in Max. You know, I think the aspect I really liked about it too, because I've seen this in real life. Well, not in person, but I've seen like a documentary about this. I love seeing the pop cultural kind of touchstone with the Ezra character. I love that, and I love because that has that has kind of worked very rarely in life with neurodivergent, specifically Owen Susskind. Yeah, that was like always my go-to case there, and just seeing that actually kind of like used there, like wow, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, the end is very much a hand wave, though. I will give you that, though. It's as much as I love that we have De Niro and we even have Vera Farmiga in this. The ending's very much kind of a hand
Very
wave.
underused Vera Farmiga, but she's there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just this total hand wave. Like we make it to the destination. It's like it goes pretty bad, but then it's like, hey, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It all worked out. So it gets what I'm saying. Look, it's not a perfect film by any stretch. It was okay.
All right,
That's it. It's very okay. Yeah.
Okay, Rebel Ridge. You know anything about this one?
Well, yeah, Tiki. I know everything about this one.
Oh, did you? Oh my god, I fucking really.
It's the whole reason you watched it was because I told you about it.
I literally don't even remember. I have such a.
Remember, I very highly recommended it, and I think that's why you watched it, or not, or
I just no. Honestly, the reason I watched it is that I really liked Aaron Pierre's performance as Mufasa. I think he should have been cast as Mufasa to begin with, instead of rolling out James Earl Jones. All due respect, of course. Okay, no, this movie's awesome.
Right? It was so. Yeah, I mean, I would say it lived up to the hype. You don't remember anything I said about it, but go on.
Yeah. I mean, that first scene is just fucking like probably one of the best opening scenes in any movie this year, honestly.
Yeah, right.
I don't remember the actor who plays him, but that one cop, the fat bearded cop. Oh, Dragon, when that guy pulls him over about midway through the movie, literally throws a fucking gun in the truck and yells gun and starts firing. Ooh, I wanted to kill that guy, Dragon.
I forget if it's David Denman or not. That might be.
Made me so mad.
If he has a goatee, I think it's David Denman. So he is like, okay, let me ask you, is he the one that he saves by the very end? If it's the
no,
one,
not that guy.
No, it's not. That's not that guy's David Denman. The other guy, no,
I think it's Emery Cohen.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So
that moment made me so fucking mad, Dragon. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anna Sophia Robb, who I have actually a pretty big connection to because I mean, not personally, of course, but
well, you danced at her wedding, Tiki.
Oh my god. No, she was Leslie in Bridge to Terabithia, which isn't a great movie, but I actually do think it's an underrated adaptation of a book that genuinely haunted me as a kid. Like, that book is fucking hardcore as like 4th grade curriculum. And I think she pulled off the role. I think she's a little bit manic pixie dream girl in the role, but she still did a good job with it. I've always remembered her from that role, and I think she does a really, really good job here. Again, Aaron Pierre, man, I think this dude is like, he's a star in the making. Like, I could totally see him being like the next Michael B. Jordan or someone of that caliber, you know.
You do know who we cast him as recently, right?
Aaron Pierre. I should know.
Yeah, you should.
Who?
John Stewart, Green Lantern.
Oh, that's right. Oh, duh. And that's perfect casting. Yeah, absolutely perfect casting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Don Johnson is just a total piece of shit.
His scenes with Don Johnson are magnetic.
Yeah.
Like when he explains to him, when he walks out there and he explains to him like what his acronym is. Like, oh god, that's great.
Dragon. I don't want to get into too much detail, like, but my father has had nothing that resulted in like the loss of a life or anything. But my father has had some really bullshit run-ins with cops where they've possessed his property for basically no reason other than the fact that they could.
Yeah.
And I would honestly be scared to show this movie to him because I think he might have just a totally visceral reaction to it. But yeah. I think this movie does a great job of showcasing just how fucked up and corrupt like small town law enforcement can be.
Mm-hmm.
I do have one caveat though. I thought when the movie switches gears in the second act, something happens. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
I think the movie kind of loses a little bit of momentum. The momentum picks back up, but it never... I definitely think this is a movie where the first half is stronger than the second half. I
love that the end's like a relay race, though.
The end is a good action scene. My problem with the ending is that I do think that for all the impending dread and buildup and how the hell is this guy possibly going to get out of this, I think it wraps up almost a little too easy for him, honestly.
I don't know. I think we put him through a lot in the movie, though. I think
We
he
put
kind of
him through a
deserved.
lot. I'm just saying, like, just I don't know. The ending left me just a tiny bit unsatisfied, and it's not like it's a terrible ending. It's not an ending that wowed me. It's just like, oh, okay, that's how it's gonna end, I guess. All right. And you know how I feel about ending, so it's not like it killed the movie, but I feel like the movie would have been even better if they would have come out with like a like a really like Juror Number Two, for example. I think is a movie that's probably in the same kind of like 8 out of 10 caliber as this movie, but I think that movie is really elevated by a really kick-ass ending, and this has a decent ending. It has a really good final action scene for sure, but yeah, some of the stuff I don't like about Act Two or the second half is just kind of my whole problem with like every movie has to be John Wick now. I feel like just a little bit of that John Wick fatigue eats its way into it a little bit. But it's still a very good movie. It's still a very solid 8 out of 10 for sure. And like I said, Aaron Pierre is definitely like a huge standout. Like I'm very excited to see where his career goes. All right.
All right.
Okay, Miracle on 34th Street. I know I've seen bits and pieces of this movie as a kid. I don't know if I ever watched the whole thing, but I obviously remember like, John Hammond as Santa Claus. I mean, like Attenborough basically played Santa Claus in Jurassic Park. The man's fucking bringing you dinosaurs. What more do you want for Christmas?
He's basically Bill Joyce Santa Claus.
Right. But what say you on it though?
Well, I think so. I was in a similar boat. I know for a fact, never finished the movie growing up, so I finally did. And yeah, it's I mean, look, the movie lives or dies by Richard Attenborough, and clearly there's life there. He's got that Richard Attenborough. Dickie Attenborough. He's got boyish charm for days. I love the cast. I will say though, for me at the end of the day, it does not surpass the original because we don't need a villain in Miracle on 34th Street. We really don't.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly it's like that and the whole like the end wedding BS. Like those are like the two hangups I got.
That's definitely the weak point of the movie. The movie goes on for like 10 minutes too long, and there's no.
It has to do is just end with all it really needs to do is just end with the whole. Hey, I've got places to be. I can't
Exactly.
go.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's a classic. It's lovely, but it's not the Oscar-winning Christmas movie the original was.
All right. Okay, gonna kind of speed run through the last two. I'll spend a little bit of time on the Cable Guy because I'm sure you're probably curious about that one. Mars Express, though, this is a very hyped up animated film from this year. I kind of did a whole like marathon of like hyped up animated films that came out this year between Flow, which I obviously saw in theaters, and then Memoirs of a Snail and Mars Express. I all saw that. I saw all three of these within like a 2 or 3 day span of each other. So it was kind of like a little mini like indie animation film festival thing that I put myself through. This is definitely my least favorite of the three of them, but if you're more into sci-fi and cyberpunk, which I'm really not, it's not that I dislike it, it's just not really my vibe. I think you'd get a lot more out of it than I did. Because essentially what this movie is it's basically just like cyberpunk, right? It's very, very baseline cyberpunk neo-noir detective story, murder mystery. There's cool ideas. There's some cool atmosphere and visuals to it. The animation style, I'm on like it looks cool, but I'm honestly not crazy about it. It's fine. I can't put my finger on it. I think it's the character designs. The character designs, they're fine, but they're not really that memorable to me. Again, there's some really cool like Blade Runner-esque ideas in this movie. Like, for example, my favorite element of it is that the lead character's partner is a guy who is an AI of her partner who got killed on the job some years ago. And so it's literally a robot who has basically did the upload thing, uploaded his consciousness into a robot. The robot projects his face onto like this blank canvas. That's a really interesting idea. It's a really interesting character. I don't think they do a ton with it. I don't know. again, cyberpunk's not really my thing. If cyberpunk was my thing, I could see myself loving this as much as something like Memoir of a Snail. As it stands now, I enjoyed it. It's just not going to be anything like near the top of my end of the year list or anything. It's solidly like a little 7 out of 10 movie. I wasn't like jumping up and down about it, but I'm glad I watched it. All right. And the big one, Dragon. This is one that I have been looking to watch for a while now. I've kind of been circling it in my catch up, and I felt like it was a good time to. The Cable Guy.
Cable Guy!
Oh, man. This movie's a fucking trip, dude. Okay, I'm not gonna name names, but, parasocial relationships, Dragon. Yeah?
Yeah, well, what about parasocial relationships?
Somebody in my life?
I guess.
I'll spell it out for you after the show. Let's just say some of the stuff in this movie kind of hit a little bit home for me, as far as like, it kind of had the same effect that Baby Reindeer did, where it's like, oh God, I'm never going to be nice to anyone ever again for the rest of my life.
Oh, right. Okay, now I got you now. I got it.
The pieces are together now.
I think so. Yep. I think we're connecting the dots.
All right. Yeah, I mean, obviously my situation's not that bad, but like kind of shades a little bit, But no, this is an excellent Jim Carrey performance, obviously. It's like, I think out of all of the 90s Jim Carrey comedy work, this might be his most impressive role. Probably not his most broadly funny role, but I don't think the role is meant to be broadly funny. It's meant to be disturbing in a lot of ways, and it is. You know what the most surreal element of this movie is, though, in a movie that's filled with like weird surrealism?
What?
The fact that Jack Black is playing the straight man.
Oh, right, yeah.
I could not wrap my head around that. Andy Dick, I'm usually hot or cold on, but I loved him as the Medieval Times host. I think that was a perfect little role for him. But no, man, all of the like social faux pas bullshit that Jim Carrey puts poor Matthew Broderick through in this movie is just, oh man, it is cringe, but it's cringe at its finest. It's cringe at its most fucking palatable.
Like the game of Password.
Oh God, yeah. Oh man. Oh, there's Dragon. Let me just tell you, if anyone does that bullshit where it's like they're just fucking with me, just straight up fucking with me, but then they're like, why are you so serious, bro? It's just a joke. Dragon, there is no quicker way for me to fucking hate you than to do that shit to me. Like, I want to be very clear. I cannot stand that passive aggressive, it's just a joke, bro, bullshit. And this character just has it in spades, and it's great. But but I love how much of a pushover Matthew Broderick is. Obviously it fits his persona very well.
I always love the nightmare sequence in the movie.
Yes.
God, I love that nightmare sequence, and I love that we end on I Love Lucy.
That's great.
God.
I do think that, like, at the end, like, obviously the character's supposed to be annoying. I get that, but by the time the movie ended, I was like, all right, I get it. You're obsessed with sitcoms and pop culture. But again, I kind of feel like that's sort of the reaction that you're supposed to have to the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in the finale when he's fucking quoting Waterworld of all movies, Oh God. And honestly, I think I've opened up to you about the fact that I like when I'm just freeform socializing, I find it challenging to find stuff to talk about that's not pop culture related. And so I felt very called out by that particular element of Jim Carrey's character. Oh man. Yeah, this movie was a fucking ride for me, man. This movie was therapy.
Well, you know what's funny?
Raw way. What?
Okay, so the scene in which he beats up Owen Wilson in the bathroom.
Right.
So a lot of people kind of made the connection. Again, I think it's more just kind of
Owen Wilson in like a great one scene wonder type role.
Oh yeah. So in the so basically a lot of people have gonna drawn the conclusion. And mind you, I think it's purely coincidental, but it's funny. Liar Liar kind of has like the revenge of that scene.
Sure.
Basically, Jim Carrey beats up poor Owen Wilson in the bathroom, and then of course he's beating himself up in the bathroom. Liar Liar. I love doing like the salt. I love the salt peanut score. It's going on during that scene though. Anyway, yeah. So Cable Guy. So you liked Cable Guy?
Oh, I really liked it. Yeah, definitely. I'm honestly surprised it's taken me this long to get around to it.
It's really funny they made fun of the Menendez brothers in that.
Yeah,
with Ben Stiller.
I do like how we're building up the Ben Stiller trial throughout the whole thing, and the payoff is great where the cable does get cut off right as they're reading the verdict. That's really good.
And you remember
that to me is like classic Ben Stiller writing. Like, and this is a Ben Stiller movie, and Ben Stiller does have a dark, kind of like ironic sense of humor.
And this was him coming off of the Ben Stiller show, by the way.
Oh, was it? Oh, nice.
I'm pretty sure it was either right before or right after. I think it was right after the Ben Stiller show. This happened.
So yeah, definitely a solid pick for sure. Okay, Dragon, really quick, best and worst.
All right. Okay, best I'm gonna say was Juror number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, worst. Well, let's see. That's the thing. I guess just process of elimination. I guess Ezra, but it's not really like I don't feel aggressively bad. I don't feel aggressively bad about it though. It's just
I'll take that.
I know you'll take that, but that's what I'm saying. I don't want to like feed into your. I don't want to give you.
You don't want to feed into the fact that I'm literally going through the exact same shit, and I did not like the message.
I don't want to just do a jig on the ashes like you are. I don't want to.
All right. For me, I think worst is absolutely Baby Girl. I mean, it's not even a terrible movie. It was just wildly mismarketed. Like Carry On was not great, but it knows what it is. It's harmless. I think Baby Girl is like, I don't know. I do not understand why they marketed the movie the way that they did. Best, I mean, there were definitely some contenders. I mean, The Cable Guy was a contender. Rebel Ridge. But at the end of the day, I got to go Dylan. I got to go A Complete Unknown. It totally blew my expectations out of the water. I was excited for Chalamet's performance, but I ended up just loving the film as a whole. So, yeah. And honestly, Dragon, I know that you're not like a Dylan aficionado the same way I am, but you are a biopic aficionado. So I am looking forward to when you eventually do watch it. All right. And Dragon, we are officially in Fuck You, It's January season.
Yes, we are.
I'm genuinely curious. Do you want to go list of American movies 2025? You want to go through and see what illustrious movies we have to look forward to this month?
I know we do actually have one good movie.
We have one good one. Yeah.
I mean, do you? Okay, I guess if you feel inclined.
All right. On the 10th, we have Den of Thieves 2, but we also have Wolfman.
So,
yeah. The fact that it's a January movie kind of makes me worried, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, they have to put it somewhere, and I'm sure October was taken.
Let's see. On the 23rd, we have Marked Men, Rule plus Shaw. That sounds super promising. Oh, look, we have a Mel Gibson directed movie. Isn't that fun? You know what? This movie actually sounds interesting. It's called Presence. It's basically like it's a Steven Soderbergh movie, and it's a haunted house movie from the perspective of a ghost, like the first person perspective of a ghost. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm into that. Oh, Neil Burger? Really? Inheritance? Oh, Neil Burger. I don't know. This might not be the worst Fuck You, It's January in the world. But we also have Angel Studios, which is just, that's not great in general. We have Dogman on the 30th, which might be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what? I take it back. This is just a meh, it's January. It's not a fuck you, it's January.
That's the thing. Dogman does have my attention. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. I'm going to be able to see it or not, but hopefully
it comes out the last day of January.
That's the thing. It's always on the bubble, too, so we'll see what happens.
Right. All right. Well, big thanks to Little Blue, Keeper Colby, Richard's Victims, Miscellaneous, and Code Geass. You guys have all been wonderful. This has been really fun. And it's been a great year at the movies. We will be. I still have to watch The Brutalist. I am going to go see The Brutalist in San Francisco. Much like Riley, I'm going to be in San Francisco.
Didn't Adrian Brody win for The Brutalist?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So once I have seen The Brutalist, I will actually feel like my movie watching this year is complete enough to make a list. I know people have been asking about the list. We will do the list probably next week. But until then, folks, we've waxed on long enough. And it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our movie memoirs. Fuck you! It's January!